I have been looking forward to actually speaking to a Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre collaboration since we started this show, man. Hold on one second. Let me exit this real quick. I want to get everybody in the room. But before I do that, man, and before we get into that, because I got Leroy that's coming in the room today. Servan, he was down with the flu or whatnot. We're giving him some time to recover. He'll show up on Wednesday's show. But yes, Leroy and myself are going to go through some of these albums today. But before we do that, man, I really wanted to speak on Outkast, man, because I know Outkast has been in the news a lot. Hold on one second, guys. Let me go ahead and get this up real quick while we're getting more people in the room. And I'm speaking of Outkast as a collective and Big Boy and Andre as individuals. I saw a very interesting clip where Big Boy was asked some GOAT questions, right? And he was asked Outkast's GOAT song, which is impossible for a lot of us to even choose. But I was really surprised by Big Boy's answer because I know Big Boy kind of really goes to more of the core of not of hip hop, but of Outkast's catalog. I know he's real big on Southern Playalistic. I know that he's really big on some of the earlier things that Cast did before they started to, I don't want to say evolve, but before they started to kind of transform into something else that was just a mirage of a bunch of genres coming together. So he said Spodio de Dopalicious was Outkast's GOAT song. And I thought that was very interesting because, first of all, it comes from their best album. Akuna is Outkast's best album. It's one of the best albums I've ever heard in hip hop, period. Music, period. Definitely the best album to come out of the city of Atlanta, straight up and down. But the interesting part about Spodio de Dopalicious was, even though we were playing the song in band, it wasn't really an official single. It didn't have a music video. They shot music video for Skew It on the Barbie, Artist Stories on Part 1, and Rosa Parks, of course, from that album. But I think over time, Spodio de Dopalicious has grown more legs than any other Outkast song that their catalog offers. Hold on one second, guys. I'm about to. Spodio de Dopalicious wasn't even an official single, but for whatever reason, and because it's a great song, it had more legs than anything that came out in that period from Cast and anything that was on that album Akumanat. And for Big Boy to actually choose a record where Outkast wasn't rapping, I thought that was interesting. I think that the way that Big Boy and Andre view Outkast's legacy is astonishing. And what I saw coming through the news pipeline as well, and this is something that I want to address, as an ATLian. And this was something that Andre said in his Rolling Stone interview. This was posted by Hip Hop DX. It said Andre admits that he and Big Boy are further away than ever from a new Outkast album. Andre is making it clear that Outkast fans won't be getting the reunion that they're hoping for anytime soon, noting that he and Big Boy are further away than ever from making a new album. 3 Stacks sat down with an in-depth interview with Rolling Stone, published on Thursday, December 12th, where he was asked about the possibility of a new album from the iconic duo, or at least a new tour. It's looking bleak for both. This is what Andre said now. Andre said, I'll say maybe 10, 15 years ago, in my mind, I thought that an Outkast album would happen. Now, come on, Dre. Really? What was that? You know what I mean? Like, he's been saying the same stuff over and over and over. Okay, I got you. And then he said, I don't know the future, but I can say that we are further away from it than we've ever been. I think it's a chemistry thing. We have to be wanting to do it. It's hard for me to make rap, period, and sometimes I'm in the belief of letting things be. Then he says, it was a great time in life, and our chemistry was at a certain place that was undeniable. And I think that the audience sometimes believes that something has to last forever. And I don't think that any kind of art form, I think that's probably the opposite. It's probably should not last forever. It's not like a product. In the end, we give a product, but what made that product was a certain time in both of our lives. He continues, it's not like we're Coca-Cola, where there's a formula that you can always press a button and it'll happen. I think the audience feels that way, but the audience never knows what it takes to make what they're getting. I can't blame them for that. As for being open for a farewell tour, Dre said, no, I doubt that. We did that tour in 2014. And I knew when I was like 25 that at a certain age, I wouldn't want to be on stage doing those songs. They require a certain energy. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of looking back. I'm just not. I'm grateful for everything that's happened, but it was a time to me. That's what it is. That was a great time, and I wish y'all were there. All right. I think that at this point, people need to stop asking Andre specifically and Big Boy Outkast questions and things about Outkast and what the future holds for that, because it's been a consistent for the past 20 years, I would say, that this is the same narrative over and over. Now, I know that Dre wants to say that 10 years ago, he had a different stance, but he didn't. And I would like to see where that's documented somewhere, because, he's been saying the same thing over and over. Now, I think what's disheartening about this, and this is from somebody from Atlanta, Georgia, who was here for their whole meteoric rise, and their rise has everything to do with our hip hop scene, with me being who I am in this space, and with According to Hip Hop being what it is in this space. I think that we need to put all of those things that Dre said in context and apply them to other groups. And we need to ask ourselves, why is it fair that, let's just say Billboard, for example, and I'm not saying that everybody out here has the same list. Why would it be fair to put Outkast ahead of groups who were able to sustain the times and able to continue on with their career and able to continue their chemistry? Because if their chemistry only lasted 10 years, how can we say that they're a better group than, say, a Public Enemy, or a better group than, say, a Tribe Called Quest, or even a Wu-Tang? I think that's not fair to the Lox, even though the Lox do not have the catalog that Outkast has. I think that a De La Soul or somebody, like, it's not fair to sit here and just catapult people who don't try to continue on over the people who do. And I don't think that Andre I think he's grateful for where music took him, but I think that this is how it looks, right? It looks like rap was just something that he did from 19 to 25. And it was something that was a time in his life, and it was a bit of a phase, a bit of a fad, if you will. And I don't think he views Outkast's legacy in the same way that we do. For him to say that he knew at 25 that he didn't want to be performing these songs at a certain age, it's like, you act like you guys were making immature records, or records that didn't stand the test of time when it came to subject matter and the depth that these records took. You're acting like you guys didn't make a Kumina. You acting like you guys didn't make, a Bombs Over Baghdad. And at that point, it just feels like, you don't view Outkast's legacy in the way that everyone else does. I would be interested to know from a hip hop standpoint, and it almost feels like Andre really doesn't hold hip hop to high regard as well, because everything is rap this, rap that, hip hop, I can't rap and blah blah blah. It's like, you don't sound like you hold the genre of hip hop to high regard. Now we're gonna get into Snoop and Dre's album, and we got people like Common and Pete who made an album this year. We got elder statesmen like LL Cool J who dropped an album with Q-Tip. And it's just not fair to put certain narratives in the same conversation with guys who went out here in their 40s, 50s, and shit, and in Dr. Dre's case, 60s, and made a hip hop album, and didn't run from making a hip hop album, and didn't act like they were too mature for the genre itself. I think that these statements from Dre, as an Outkast fan and as somebody who's extremely inspired by them and their works, it's really sad to hear. But at the same time, also have to give credit to those who don't talk like this. I see somebody in the chat saying Q-Tip is greater than Drake. Of course. And Q-Tip is a guy, Q-Tip is, if we talk about inspiration and we're talking about the evolution of things and artists, like Q-Tip is Dre's father. He's, Pharrell's father, Kanye's father, however you want to put it. And somebody like Q-Tip is able to do the rhyming thing, able to do the producing thing, able to do the DJing thing. And even if you want to talk about him creating the artwork for tribes logos and things of that nature, you got the graffiti in there too. You have people who live hip hop, who love hip hop, and who keep that whole thing going. And it's really sad to hear one of our greats speaking like this. I just wish that at this point, and I love Dre, I hope Dre continues on with his musical journey, but if you're not going to speak highly of the Cast catalog or highly of hip hop altogether, let's just talk about something else. You know what I'm saying? And those questions that get asked to Big Boy, like Outkast's GOAT song and stuff like that, if you want to ask Dre those things, I would be very interested to know what Dre really thinks of Outkast and Outkast's legacy. What's Outkast's best song? Outkast's best album? Or even where do you put Outkast on an all-time grouping list? Like I saw Big Gip do an interview talking about Outkast should be over Run DMC. That's how highly the Dungeon feels about the work that Outkast put in. The fact that these guys put Atlanta on the map and then continued to grow and continue to grow and grow till they became global icons. These guys are the first hip-hop group that wasn't out of New York that made a 5 mic album or got a 5 mic album in the Source. Like, what you guys accomplished was incredible. And I hate to hear Andre not just belittle Outkast's accomplishments musically, but also belittling hip-hop as a genre. And I don't think it's healthy for the genre altogether. And cheers to those and kudos to those who keep this genre going. It's not just, and I love the young people doing hip-hop. That's what it's about. You got to keep that young energy going. Now, that part of what Dre says, I agree with. But that doesn't discount the veterans who still have something to say. The veterans who still have more innovative ways to put music out there and put together projects, and who have the knowledge and the ability to put together projects. What I heard from Missionary, and I'm gonna get to that in a second, because I'm gonna have to sit here and gloat for a second, man. I said Missionary was album of the year, and after hearing Missionary like 2, 3, 4 times, I feel very validated in that assertion. This is clearly hip-hop's album of the year. But before I get on that, when you hear an album like this, you hear somebody who knows how to make albums, knows how to make songs, knows how to actually make these records flow. And even though young energy in hip-hop is incredible and it's great and we need that, we also need people who are veterans who can actually help some of these younger artists who don't know how to put together albums and don't know how to put together songs to that level to be able to harness that energy and make those records. Outkast had Organized Noise and the rest of the Dungeon, and probably even more than that, to help them become the group that they became. When you listen to Southern Playalistic is really, as far in my opinion, is guided by Organized Noise and the rest of the Dungeon. From what I understand, Get Up, Get Out was CeeLo's song. But since Outkast had a deal and they were working on an album, they went ahead and gave that record to them. These songs were put together by collectives. And you need that collective that's going to harness this young talent to go out there and become an Outkast. And I don't know where Dre's coming from with this. I don't know if this is a personal journey. And I hate that, he interviews on certain platforms that aren't really going to challenge some of these notions and narratives. But I want to know at this point what he actually thinks about Outkast and Outkast's legacy. Because even when Outkast had, or even when the Atlanta Braves had Outkast night here in Atlanta, Georgia, it was only Big Boy that showed up, and we love you, Dre, man. We just want to know. And I don't want to speak for the whole city. I just want to know. I want to know what you really think about Outkast's legacy, because I believe Outkast had an incredible legacy. But to sit here and say that you knew at 25 years old that you weren't going to perform these records at a certain age, I got to know what records you talking about and why. But let me go ahead and get Leroy in here, man, because I could go on a tangent forever and forever on this. Leroy, you in the building? Well, while we get Leroy in here, I'm bugging. Why am I bugging? I guess I could be bugging for different reasons. You guys probably think I'm bugging because of the Missionary Album of the Year statement. Okay. All right, let's talk about this, though. Friday, Snoop Dogg dropped his highly anticipated Missionary album. And the album was totally produced by Dr. Dre. Now, many times in the past, Dr. Dre has, I don't want to say Dr. Dre has said that he was going to release an album. Actually, other people were saying that he was going to work on the album or was working on the album, and it never happened. When I got faith that this was actually going to happen is when Dr. Dre went on, I think it was Entertainment Tonight, was talking about the album and said that he was mixing the album, and he actually had a number of songs and a release date. And I was like, okay, I think this is actually going to happen. One of the other things that is noteworthy about a Dr. Dre release, because I kind of count this as a Dr. Dre release. When you got Snoop and Dr. Dre, that's kind of like a combo. But a Dr. Dre release has to have a point. And The Chronic was to launch Death Row. 2001 was to really launch Aftermath. The Compton album was for the movie. And that's the NWA movie. And this album, the purpose for me, after we saw what Snoop was for the Olympics, and the Olympics is going to be in LA in the next 4 years, I think that it makes sense for Dr. Dre and Snoop, even after that Super Bowl performance, to have some new records that they could go out there and showcase and not just have to lean on those classics. So I think that gave this a bit of a purpose as well. So with all of those factors coming together, I say, you know what? I think this album's actually going to happen. That's why I said, the engineering's a 10 out of 10. I think we expected that. But yes, so once I got word that this album was actually going to happen, this was my front runner for Album of the Year, because it's Dr. Dre and Snoop. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, that's just, in my opinion, that's the best producer and MC combination that hip hop's ever seen. Now, many of us have Dr. Dre as number one on the GOAT list. I think that this album was going to be, I don't want to say a determining factor, but this was going to be something to strengthen that argument or possibly weaken that argument. And after listening to this album, I think that Dr. Dre has solidified his crown as the greatest hip hop producer in hip hop history. Greatest producer in hip hop history, and possibly one of the greatest producers of all time. The way that these records were put together, and you try to listen to other albums around it, and it's not just the engineering. It's the way that the hooks come together. It's the way that the songs flow together. It's the reframes, the bridges, the way that the verses are stacked, like the way the hooks come together. Like the hooks on this album are some of the best hooks that I've heard all year. Like these sound like songs. And I think that what has been happening in hip hop, I think a lot of people have gotten accustomed to just putting out a lot of content, a lot of material, and the quality control to a certain degree has suffered. This album sounds like an album that you would have heard in the CD era, where somebody actually took their time to make these songs and put these songs together and make these songs mean something, as opposed to them just being another digit on the dial, if you will, another click on your streaming platform. I found myself just listening to this album without skipping anything. Like I just went from the intro to Shayla Ra, then went to Out of the Blue, and then went to Hard Knocks, and it just flows. And we somebody's I want to see what I see something to talk about this. People listen. All right, for the people who are saying this album is mid, and I know that this is an overused term here in hip hop, and especially in these chat formats, and when we're talking to the people. Why do you guys feel like this album is mid? And I'm just asking. Like I'm really interested because when I hear this, I'm hearing songs that jump off the page. I'm hearing songs that sound bigger than its other counterparts. There's not an album that came out this year that I think song for song, track for track is better than this album. I just don't. I was a big fan and still am a big fan of Common and Pete Rock's album Auditorium. I think This Man is still the best hip hop song I heard this year, but end to end, I would still have to give it to Missionary. I think Corday put together a really dope album. I think he said a lot on this album. He sounded very comfortable. He was continuously elevating his skill set. I think he's a much better rapper than he once was. But I'm hearing some noise in the background. What's going on? I figured somebody was going to go the overproduced route. But yeah, I think Corday did a really good job in putting his album together. I think it sounds almost like a debut. It gives you Kanye West college dropout type of feels, but this album is just bigger and badder, man. Like it's that 2001 feel. It's that Get Rich or Die Trying feel where it's like these songs just sound so much more massive than everything else. And I love Alchemist and I love Rock Marciano. I was listening to Rock Marciano and Alchemist's album. Rock Marciano is snapping on there. But when you pair those songs up with the songs that are on Missionary, man, like it's not even the same. There's levels to this. And as Exhibit so famously said, never knew about the next level until Dre did it. Dre is definitely the catalyst for this album and how and why this album moves in the way that it moves. Now, if I do have one critique, and Leroy and I were talking about this offline, I guess whenever he gets on, we're going to speak to this. But if I have one critique, it's the fact that Snoop Dogg is more of a free-flowing type of artist, and he sounds like he's working within the Dr. Dre system on this album. And, for some, that might not be as organic as what they're used to from Snoop, but we have to choose, right? Are we going to celebrate Snoop for giving us some bangers here and there and making free-flowing albums? Or are we going to celebrate Snoop for being able to put together an end-to-end piece of work? Because that's always been the knock on Snoop, that he doesn't have another Doggy Style in his arsenal. He didn't have a quote-unquote classic album, even though I do think Rhythm and Gangsta is really good. I do think that Blue Carpet Treatment's really, really good. But everyone's critique is the fact that Snoop has one classic album. What gets you that classic album in many people's minds is putting together efforts like this, putting together versatile pieces of work like this. You got records with Sting, you got records with Jelly Roll, and Jelly Roll and what was on that record? I'm tripping. Jason, all right, we got Leroy Green in here. You guys didn't like the Jelly Roll record. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The Closer with the Negotiator. Snoop is rapping on this. Now, we're going to get to that, too. I think that's the other part that's kind of throwing people off. Let me get this track list up real quick while we get Leroy in here. OG Weston with the super chat says, Snoop's rapping was top tier on this album, 100. It was. They say I'm gaslighting. Oh, my God, man. So many terms. I can't just say that the album is dope. I want to know, like, what? Let me go down the list, man. Foreplay is dope. Dope intro. Shangri La is dope. Out of the Blue is dope. Hard Knocks is dope. Gorgeous is dope. Last Dance with Mary Jane with Tom Petty and Jelly Roll is dope. Thank You is a banger. Pressure is dope. Another Part of Me with Sting is dope. What's going on, Leroy? How you doing, sir?
Yes,
Skyscrapers with
sir. Yes,
Method
sir.
Man. It's crazy. We got Method Man over a Dr. Dre track. Like, what do people not? Leroy, man, speak to me, man. What were you thinking about this album?
I loved it. You know, I'm from California, but I explained to people what type of album this was. You know what I mean? Before it hit, and what type of artist Snoop was. Now, what I'm asking people to do, what I asked him to do before Snoop even made an album, is put yourself aside. Put your own opinion aside. Because if you don't like the album, I'm not mad at you. I got friends that aren't really feeling the album like that. I'm not mad at you if you don't like it. I'm just saying put yourself aside and let's judge some things that Snoop did right, right? Because we're going to look at the things that we don't like and we're going to say, well, I don't like this, I don't like that. Let's look at the things that he did right, right? So if I just mention sound quality, you know that's a mountain
That's a
right there.
given. We were expecting that. I don't think anybody. But
Right.
see, that's the thing, man. All right, so let's get that one out the way. Sound quality's there.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sound quality. Now, this weekend, Rock Marci also came out too. I love Alchemist. I love this album by Alchemist. I'm gonna go back to Snoop and Dre. But imagine if Alchemist engineer was Dr. Dre. Just imagine that.
Well, this is the
So
thing. I mean, sound
yeah.
quality is one thing, engineering is one thing, and I do think
Mhm.
that Dr. Dre is hands down the best engineer in hip hop, right? Um,
Right.
but see, song structure is the thing that I think that separates
Bro.
this album from everything else. Like right now, and it's crazy because somehow hip hop has moved backwards where everybody just wants a loop, bars, hook, loop, bars, hook, whatever. These guys are actually doing way more than that. And I don't know if it's one of those things that it's just going to take some time for certain people to catch up to. But I mean,
Right.
do y'all hear the hook on Hard Knocks? That shit is crazy.
Listen, I thought I knew everything about writing songs until I actually had to train to be a songwriter. That's when I learned I really didn't know as much as I think I knew. Right? Now, we talked about Snoop's flow before. I don't have the album memorized, but we've talked about his abilities before. Let's say the beat is right here, right? The beat is doing
Mhm.
this. So the beat's right there. The Snoop's flow is on top. So we're going to go ain't nothing. I'm his pen now. Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Two loped out G's going crazy. Death Row is the label that pays me. Unfadable. So see, don't try to say. So please don't try to fade this. Now you see what just happened there. That was a four bar. That's a quatrain, but that's a song within a song because there's melody there. So what I'm saying is the beat is going like this, and Snoop is riding that melody better than most rappers because there's half the bar is bars, the other half is melodic. So what I'm saying is when you have a Snoop song like this album, because it's more songs on this album than what you see on the track list, because some of these songs are two songs and some of these songs have two to three different melodies. So what I'm
Hold on,
saying
let me
to you,
get to Jay Short. Hold that thought real fast. I want to
yes,
get to Jay Short from the West Coast. Shout out to Jay Short with the $20 super chat. He says, when Snoop did an album full of West Coast producers like Never Left and From the Streets to the Church, nobody listened. Now that he went to another direction, you guys are mad too. People want the West Coast rappers to be caricatures. Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, you gotta choose. When Snoop went out there and made some core West Coast stuff and was, you know what I'm saying, making records with Battle Cat and stuff, people acting like he ain't got classics. But when he goes out there and makes a superstar album, which is what this is, then people want to critique that too. I mean, I think that
right?
one thing that I will say about this album, I'm gonna let you finish your thought.
No,
We
go.
did a big event type of album in hip hop. We haven't had a big event type of album in hip hop, to be honest, maybe since Watch the Throne. And you know what I mean? And it's like we've had some good albums, we've had some great albums, but we also got to celebrate the fact that a nigga came through to give us an event and they delivered on it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Name
I don't know
classic
what
album,
people
people.
were expecting.
Like people in the last decade, give me your classic albums. We don't have a lot. So what we need is a blueprint. I'm not calling this album classic. I'm not even calling it album of the year because I don't think it's fair to compare Snoop and Dre to other rappers. That's really why I'm
Mm,
not calling it of the year to
wow.
be honest. I
I'm
don't
not
think
mad
it's
at
fair
that.
because Snoop and Dre are Snoop is not a rapper no more. He's an icon. So that's a different sound. And like I don't think it's fair to compare Dre's sound quality to somebody else anymore because Dre has left that stratosphere. Now, what I'm saying is I also think people expected a Dr. Dre album. This is a Snoop Dogg album. We have to know Snoop and Dre are two different people. Even
Yeah.
though they're very close, their sound is slightly different. Snoop is an activator of a good time. I told y'all that. If you're not ready to have a good time when you listen to Snoop, you're not listening right. You know, you think I listen to Ka behind me with the same ears I listen to Snoop? No. There's two different sounds. Now,
Speaking to that
go
point,
ahead.
though, I
Mhm.
think that, man, I got to give Dre a whole lot of props because the Snoop Dogg that he had on Doggy Style is not the Snoop Dogg that you have today. And I think that he did a great job as a producer of adjusting to what this Snoop is today and still being able to integrate his sound and his style too. I often criticize Dr. Dre making Big Bang for Buster, right? Like it's a dope
Right.
album, but it doesn't sound like Buster. I do think there are moments here where Snoop doesn't sound as free flowing as we're used to Snoop being, but Snoop sounds like Snoop on this whole album, and it sounds like an elevated Snoop over Dr. Dre's production.
Come on, man. You think Snoop is one of the greatest icons of rap by accident, people? You think it's
Nah,
an
he's
accident Snoop got there? Like we're talking about my analysis. So let's talk about it. If we're talking about what's a template for a culture moving album, whether you think this one is it or not, we still need a template. At the beginning it starts off with the stylistic sample with BJ, the Chicago kid, coming in with vocals that are reminiscent of Butch Cassidy. Now the soul in that, take away your lyrical analysis and your comparison analysis, what does it feel like? It feels good, right? So we starting the album already feeling good. Now when you start an album, you're like a plane on a runway. Your job is to take off with your
yeah,
album. That's your job. Your job is to take off, and once you get in the air, you hold people's attention in the air, right? So on the
yeah.
first song, Shangri-La, whatever, they take off. They got the stakes is high sample. The hook is an airport stewardess with a lady talking through the radio, telling you know what I mean? They take off literally in a plane.
Perfect
So
intro.
we're starting this album off right. I'm gonna try to skip the singles for y'all because I know y'all heard the singles. But after we take
But
off,
I
I
mean, I feel you. I usually do that, but
yeah,
I like Out of the Blue now more than I did when it was put
yeah,
out individually. I like Out of the Blue now more in the flow of the
right,
album. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go from
yeah.
Shangri-La and you go to Out of the Blue, it's like whoa. And like you said, with the stewardess and all of that, like
Come
I don't
on,
think,
come on.
regardless of what y'all think about this album, there is not an album that came out this year that starts off as great as this album.
No,
Like
no,
this album,
no,
like you said, it
no.
takes off. Like,
You already starting off at a high moment, and think about it. That's Snoop's brand. Think about the first time you ever heard Snoop solo.
yep,
Snoop Dogg, dog. What is that? That's an anthem. So this artist
from the
is his
depths of
job
the
is to
sea.
make anthems.
Man,
His job is to make anthems, not bar you to death, right? So he takes off out of the blue. The hook, where does the hook come from, y'all? All I want to do is bang, 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 and take your money. That is a classic song from Paper Planes in the blog era. That song set off the blog era, really.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Shout
mean?
out to MIA.
That song set, so that is a classic hook. Now, Hard Knocks. When we think of Hard Knocks, some of us are gonna think Hard Knock Life, but we got the hook there, and we got the crispiness of the beat, sound quality, y'all. I know
Shoot.
y'all. Yes, there are some independent films that are better written than Marvel, but when a Marvel movie drops, we know what we about to get. This is a
There's so
Marvel
much
movie.
It is, and there's so much more pressure on a blockbuster film than there is on, you know, an independent
Yes,
film. It is what it is. You could tell that this is a big budget film if you want to be, you know, if you want to correlate it to film. Jay Short with another super chat, he says, if people want the West Coast sound, they go stream the East Sider's new EP and or the Dog Pound Gangsters album. Some of y'all belong on DJ Vlad, reminiscing about your West Coast death row glory years.
I got a
Facts.
comment for
This
that though.
sounds like the
I
future, man.
Yeah, I was talking about East Siders and Dog Pound because I was already on that page. So it's not like I haven't been there. I reviewed those albums here. But
Yeah.
I think Snoop and Dre are just they're having a good time, y'all. That I think is the focus of the album is having a good time. And I'm all for innovation. I think LL Cool J dropped the Afrofuturist album. I think there's only a handful of those albums in rap creation. So I'm all for innovation, right? So, but the album takes off now after Hard Knocks, there's a beat flip. So I'm saying there's two songs in one song, and there's two hooks. You see how Snoop is kind of beating y'all because he's putting two different hooks and two songs on one song. You know what I mean? So I just want to point that out. Now, thank you. Thank you is the gangster
Oh, it
national.
goes to gorgeous. Well, I guess you're skipping the singles because then it goes to
Oh, yo, yeah,
gorgeous.
my bad. Yes, I
Yeah,
skipped the single.
gorgeous is a banger.
Gorgeous. I mean, again, I think that I know that we listen to music a certain way, but Snoop Dogg is a group setting. You were supposed to listen to this album with your family, with your friends. That's the purpose of this album. You know,
I
but
can
if you
hear
didn't do
gorgeous
that,
at a
that's fine.
barbecue. I can hear
Yeah,
gorgeous at a barbecue or a skating rink or something.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Normally I'm at a barbecue. Like I'm from California. Every weekend I'm at a barbecue because it's California. But this weekend I didn't I stayed at home, right? But yeah, no, it's real because people think the barbecue thing is like music video stuff. No, y'all, like people in California, we will barbecue when it's raining. Like we ain't got no sense. Like when it comes to the barbecue. But okay. So gorgeous, right? But thank you though. I'm sorry, y'all. Thank you is a wrecking ball of a song. That is a monster.
Yeah.
Thank you is just the words alone, because we're going to talk about songwriting and why Snoop is one of the illest songwriters, because it's hard to be simple. But thank you for letting me be myself. You know how
Well,
that single
I'm gonna
is
be
going to ring
honest
off?
with you. I'm gonna be honest
Yeah,
with you. When I first heard "Thank You," and I think this was a record, one of the records that had to grow on me because I couldn't
yeah.
get "Slide and the Family Stones" out of my head.
Right,
But
right.
I see what they did there, and you know what I'm saying, and it's a banger. And I think that based on Snoop and who he is, and his speech at the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where he, you know,
Right.
thanked himself and all of that, I think that this is a great opener and this is a great anthem for what they're trying to do. They got anthems on here, and that's
It's
one thing that, you know, for whatever hip hop fans are out there and whatever you're comparing this to, we can honestly say that there haven't been other hip hop albums that gave us anthems like this. Anthems
no.
like Thank You, anthems like Out of the Blue. Like these are records that knock, man. And everybody in the chat is saying that Hard Knocks is fire. I know I'm not tripping. That shit is
No,
crazy,
our
man.
Knox is
The
fire.
hook is
Listen, y'all.
crazy.
When Snoop writes a 16, we are used to people just barring out a 16. When Snoop writes a 16, the first 4 to 8 bars are the bars. The second 4 to 8 bars are bridges or pre-choruses or second hooks. That is a songwriter technique. This is why when you listen to a Snoop song, by the second verse and hook, you end up repeating the song with him. You know what I mean? But that I mean, Snoop didn't get here by accident, y'all. He knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna skip the I could go in the Last Dance with Mary Jane. I'm sorry, y'all, but if that rings off in the country spots, that song is gonna ring off in country music.
I could see that record. I could see that record being a hit. And and see again, even if Last Dance with Mary Jane is not, I mean, I think it's a dope song. Even if it's not your vibe or whatever, you gotta at least recognize that a record like that and Another Part of Me could still be a hit in something
Bro.
outside of the hip hop realms. And they were able to fit these things on this album seamlessly. And I'm gonna be honest, man. I didn't expect that from Dre, and mostly Dre, because Dre is the one that is guiding this ship. He produced this. Snoop put this in Dre's hands to put together, and I got to give Dre props for having a record like Last Dance with Mary Jane and Another Part of Me be able to fit on an album like this and still have anthems. And these are records that could probably ring off, and like you said, in country spots possibly. And I could hear damn near, I would say maybe half of this album I could hear on commercials.
Bro, you know what I mean? That song would do damage in the country world. And also Another Part of Me, if he did that at a festival in Europe or something, or anywhere, man. Come on, man. Now, before I get into pressure,
give me a hip hop album that's giving you all of this that came out in 2024.
No, it's not happening.
It's
no hip hop album giving you all this. That's what I told y'all. Snoop is very solid in giving y'all a full course meal. That's not regular. You know what I mean? Now I can go into pressure because we talked about overproduction, right? Pressure is what? What is the beat? Don't don't da da don't 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 da da don't don't da da don't. That's not complicated, y'all.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I think Dre has heard some of the critiques of him overproducing, and I feel like he dialed it down a bit on this album. Now, some of these songs do have two-parters, like you said, but I mean, if we're not gonna knock Hit Boy for doing that on KD3, I don't understand how we're gonna do that with Dr. Dre on here. I mean, because the transitional points are very good.
The transition points, when you transition into a hook and then you leave a hook to go back to the verses, those are very important transitions, y'all, when it comes to song. This is the master of that.
They're showing rappers how to make songs on this album. Like,
yes.
And nobody, I mean, because I'm gonna be honest, man, and we'll talk about some of these other albums in a second, but Ron hit me and was like, the Fat Joe is fire and all of that. And maybe I should have listened to the Fat Joe before I listened to this. But after listening to this album, I couldn't listen to the Fat Joe. No disrespect. It just
Mike. I can't let you do me like that, man. I know you. I knew you was going to hit me. I knew you was going to try. I knew you was going to do this, Mike. So that's why I jumped on.
I'm not doing you like anything.
Yes,
you hit me with that, and I just can't get into it.
Now, don't do me like that, bro. Because I know you was going to do me like that. Because the people in the chat, like I told you, ain't feeling this Dr. Dre like that. Now you gonna throw me under the bus?
That's okay.
I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm just telling you what happened. You hit me and said the Fat Joe was dope, and I tried to give it a listen after this Dre album. I mean, not Dre album, after the Snoop album, and based on the production and the approach, like it just didn't sound like on that level to me. Like it just didn't.
It's not on that, it's not on that level though. Can I get my critique after you get the super chat real quick? Because I gotta
I mean that go ahead.
That's Tanner with the super chat says, great stream, fellas, and Dre is still the best engineer in the game. The sound quality is epic as fuck. I mean, that ain't even a question. He's the best hip hop producer of all time.
But y'all, sound quality matters, y'all. Sound quality matters. I just want to point that out because we're in an era where we think that don't matter. It matters.
I don't know how.
I got 10 minutes real quick.
And I think Alchemist is a top 10 producer of all time. I couldn't even listen to that album next to the Snoop. It's levels.
Right.
I got you. I got 10 minutes real quick. Go
ahead,
give me 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, let me preface this by saying, number one, I thought the album was dope. Thought the album was cool. Does it sound big? Does it sound, some people in the chat saying it sounds overproduced, it sounds slickly produced, it's well-crafted. It's a well-crafted, big sounding album. To your point, you're not going to hear other albums sound like this in the mainstream because it has the backing of Interscope, Aftermath, Death Row. It's going to be a big, and it's Dr. Dre, so it's going to sound different. But does it make an album of the year? You said something, Mike. You said it has anthems on it. We don't know. The album just came out on Friday, and we don't know if these songs are going to rock.
Do you want to
My
see Snoop
ears
on the
tell me
road?
these are
I
anthems.
mean, with the people in the chat,
Snoop
the people,
Dre on the
bro,
road?
you just said it yourself, though. You said it yourself. This is big budget. This is Interscope. So you're telling me that these records that sound this big
but
and that they put
it doesn't
so
touch
much
your soul.
into, you're telling me that they're not going to fly?
Just because you have a big budget doesn't mean you touch the soul of the people, man. You know what I'm saying? Just because it just because it sound big, it might not feel big.
Pressure
to the sound.
with
I'm just
Snoop
saying.
Dogg with the Slick Rick flow. You think the Slick Rick flow and the superhero hook with sounding like blaxploitation Pharrell and him doing this?
That's all cool.
Fire.
That's
Do
all
you
cool.
hear how fire sounds?
Guys,
fire,
guys,
Rastafari.
Like I told y'all on the private text, like I told y'all in the chat, it's 2024, man. It ain't 1990. It's okay. They made
I don't understand what that means.
They made an adult.
Hold on, Rambe just stepped in the room. Can I get to his super chats real quick?
Yeah, get
Rambe says it's sad because we've been fed a lot of music that don't meet our certain standards. We forgot what top tier music sounds like. I agree. Rambe also says Dre's attention to detail is unmatched. The mix, the ad-libs, the melodies, the transitions, not to mention Snoop is rapping his ass off. I agree on all counts.
And Snoop could rap.
I guess I can finish my point on Wednesday.
Go ahead, Ron. I apologize. Go ahead.
I guess I can finish my point on Wednesday. When I said that it's 2024, not 1990, what I mean by that is we are in a new era of rap. You see it with Common and Pete Rock. We see it with Q-Tip and LL Cool J. This is adult contemporary hip hop, and which is okay. These are two elder statesmen of hip hop that made Doggy Style, made The Chronic. They gave us that, but we can't sit back and say this is an event album when it don't sound like Chronic 2001. You said Get Rich or Die. This ain't no Get Rich or Die trying. These are cool records that you can go to a barbecue.
He's not 50 Cent.
I'm just saying these records are not
his
that
debut album, right? I mean,
it's not going to give you the feeling of that. It's a cool record, and that's what it is.
If 50 Cent could be hot 30 years from now, or I guess only 10 years from now, because he already been in the game 20. If he can be hot 10 years from now, we can talk. Snoop hot 30 years from Doggy Style.
This is what I would say, and to speak to that point, and maybe you took what I said out of context. I'm saying how big these records sound in relation to everything else that's around it. When Get Rich or Die Trying came out, was that 03? You had stuff like, you know what I'm saying, The Listening by, Lil Brother and all that stuff out. Get Rich or Die Trying just sounded more massive than everything that came out around it in 03. It just did. And that's what I'm comparing when I'm talking about that. Like this album, there's nothing that really sounds close to it from a massive standpoint. And we're talking about anthems and the approach. Everybody's kind of approaching hip-hop albums in a similar way now. Like they're approaching albums in a way where they're just kind of doing the beginning, middle, and end. And that's why I gave Nas and Hit Boy a lot of props on KD3. That was an album that gave you a lot. And it gave you a lot of variables. It gave you a lot of range. These other albums that came out in 2024 don't give you the level of range that this album gives you. You got songs like Another Part of Me and last trip with Mary Jane. Like, there's no other
I still got half the album to go. I already done blew up the spot with just half the album. If I talk about the other half of the album, that's just adding more pressure. Now, in respect to 50, I think we respect 50's story. When he first came out, I think we respect somebody that comes from nothing and makes it through adversity, and we respect the story. But 50 didn't have Dre engineering every beat. So there is a difference here. Dre engineered every beat. Now again, we respect 50's story. They're just two different things. But I mean, Skyscrapers, that's a massive record.
Crazy.
Method Man went crazy. Like,
Method Man always goes crazy. He went crazy on the Sky Zoo feature too. Thumbs up in the chat, guys. But when you hear how massive this track sounds, and then you hear Method Man's coming, it's like, this is different, guys. Like, no disrespect to the Sky Zoo record because Method Man killed that too. But when you listen to the Sky Zoo record and you listen to this record, it's different levels, man. I
The hook.
can't say it enough. Never knew
The
about
hook.
the next level until Dre did it.
This for
Okay.
all my black entrepreneurs.
So
That's gonna ring off in the street.
So can two
The
things
next
be?
song
I
is
gotta
fire.
jump. I want to finish two
Guns
points
N'
Go
for
ahead,
you.
Ron. Let me finish your
With
point.
Because
50 and
I
Eminem.
maybe I can finish on Wednesday. But what I'm saying, get to
No,
the
go
super
ahead,
chat.
Ron.
I'll get to the super chat real quick, and then I'll do it, and I'll finish up.
American Negro says, people have been listening to garbage for so long that they don't realize when they have supreme production and mastering in their face. Hashtag Snoop. Hashtag Leroy was correct.
Come on. I know what I'm talking about, y'all. I've been listening to rap my whole life.
Again, two things can be true. This could be a big sounding album. It could be grand in production, grand in scale, can be mastered to perfection, but it still might not be resonating with the people. Because I'm looking at the chat. Y'all been on here
That's
talking.
okay.
I don't know if y'all been reading the chat. This audience been rocking with Mike for a very long time. Some of the people, they're not feeling the
I'm not
album. So
asking people to like it.
maybe we're all crazy.
I'm not asking people to
Maybe
like
we're all
it.
crazy that I don't
Well,
think this is not album of the year.
Let's not divert to the people, Ron. What do you think about the album?
They ain't gotta like it.
No, I just said what I thought. I said I think this album is a solid album. It's very dope. If there was a category called adult contemporary hip hop, much like Pete Rock and Common, this would be
There is a category for that.
This would be it. It seems like Dr. J production's on point.
I disagree with that.
I think Dr. Dre's
other than
production's
their age, I don't even see how you could put these two in the same category.
Bro, anybody touching that stage, nobody wants to be on the stage with Snoop and Dre right now. Trust me. If you're an artist, do not be on the stage with Snoop and Dre.
I agree with you.
You are going to get run over.
Did you watch the Black Friday special with Snoop?
Let's just say hypothetically, Common's performing his album on the stage. Then you got Snoop performing this album on the stage, and LL's performing his album on the stage. Come on, man. I mean, I love all three projects. You know how I feel about Q-Tip as a producer. You know how I feel about Pete Rock and what him and Common did. This shit blows doors off the hinges, man.
Again, I've already stated what I felt, and I didn't say the album was whack. People in the chat are saying the album is whack. I didn't say that. People said it was mid.
I'm not telling you
I
to
didn't
like
say that.
it.
What I said.
I'm just telling
people say everything's mid.
Let me finish my
and
point.
The super chats that I see are different.
Let me finish my point so I can slide out. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think this is album of the year. I just don't think after 4 days we can say that. We got Corday, you got Freddie Gibbs, you got Marci, you got Pete Rock and Common. Go back and listen to those albums, and then we can have a fair determination. Does it sound bigger than those albums? Yes, they do. They sound much bigger because it's Dr. Dre. But are they better albums pound for pound? I disagree.
Yeah, Dr. Dre is not nothing to sneeze at.
Didn't say he was. Didn't say he was. I'm just saying.
So when we say an album sounds bigger, the sound of an album is about 60% of an album. The sound. We have moved away from what sound is.
And then you took you took another comment I made in the chat about the movie game. Just because the movie sounds big and looks big, don't make it a better movie.
But it's
still big. A Marvel movie doesn't have to be the best written movie, but it's still Marvel.
I got on this microphone earlier this year and I criticized the Marsha Ambrosia album, and it was mastered incredibly. It was engineered incredibly. Yes. I said that the production on there from Dre was lazy. Most people love that album. So this ain't about just mixing and mastering and engineering. The way these songs were put together is different, man. And I think
Snoop is rapping.
I think there's a lot of people out there that, like somebody said in a super chat, we've gotten so used to critiquing things so quick that when something really dope really hits you in your face, it's like you don't know how to take it. You want to find something wrong with it. And you know what? I did that too. When I heard the album, I was looking for something wrong because I knew it was my job to go out here and speak to the album. But on second, third listen, I was able to just really enjoy the album for what it was. And I found myself just really listening to the album, not skipping around. And it wasn't, and I hate to say this because I love hip hop and I don't want to sound like it's a chore or a job. But sometimes when I have albums in front of me, it does feel like a job to have to listen to everything. I didn't feel like that with this album. I was able to put this album on and really just listen and flow with it. It's
Somebody
way better
said
than the Kendrick album. I'm sorry. I know B Dot put the Kendrick album as the best rap album of 2024. It's not even close. Now, is Kendrick
Marco
rapping
Polo.
crazy on there, whatever? Like, come on, man. But as far as the
Somebody
song,
said Marco Polo
I got to bounce.
greater
Right?
than
I got
Dre.
to bounce. But I just want to say
love
this.
Marco
I got to
Polo.
bounce. I got to bounce. But I want to say this before I go. Again,
Come on.
okay, go ahead.
I didn't dog the album out. I didn't criticize the album. I'm just saying objectively, it's a solid album. It's a good album. It may make my top 10, but I think 4 days removed from it, I think we can't say that this is the album of the year. In my opinion, I can't say
I'm speaking objectively.
I can't say
I'm
from my
speaking
ears.
objectively.
I can't say from my ears as album of the year. I think it can sound big, but where's the soul at? And
Who
that's all I got to
cares?
say. Where's the soul
Well,
at?
all
If
right.
it's not album of the year, that's okay.
Where the
We're not
soul at? I'm
talking
gone,
about if it's
peace.
album of the year.
Well,
We're
hopefully
talking about is
Wednesday
the
you'll be
album
able
good?
to
Where's
articulate
the
That's
soul?
the
Where's the
bar.
soul? Then you know where's the
Is
soul
the
at?
album good?
Where's the
Now,
soul?
when we talk about Snoop Dogg, what makes Lupe Fiasco's album good this year? I said it wasn't the lyrics. I said it was the flow over the music, right? So
Yeah.
what you think Snoop is doing? Any rapper who you think exhibits a better flow, a better transition than Snoop Dogg, let me know. Let me know who that is. Somebody said Marco Polo better than Dr. Dre. I love Marco Polo. Okay, but better than Dr. Dre. I mean, let's be serious. Let's be serious. You know what I mean? Now, I didn't. Now the next song, I skip over Fire, Rastafari, but Jamaica. I got a special love for Jamaica. Okay, Guns and Smoke with 50 Cent and Eminem. 50, he came with the dope flow. I gotta respect that. I gotta respect. I was kind of getting that 50 last
50
time, but he
killed this
came
shit,
with the
man.
flow. 50, he did that. The next song, Sticky Situation, again, 2 songs in one with 2 different hooks. Do y'all see what Snoop is doing here? Do y'all see how the there's actually 19 songs on this album if you count the beat switches and different hooks.
You
Do
counted
y'all
that?
see it? Yes. Do y'all see that? Now or never. And we also got to protect our icons. You know, there was some stuff going on earlier. Snoop is a football league coach. He's always been down with his community. He's always been a stand-up dude. I can personally vouch for the OG. I've met him, spoke with him. We got to protect our icons, okay? So you'll never hear me talking down on the dog, man. Maybe
Well,
it's just because
that sounds biased, and I love Snoop too. But I mean,
but
I'm just judging
musically,
the
it's
music
still dope.
for what it is. The
Yeah.
music's what it is, and listen, for the people who says Dilla is better than Dr. Dre, listen, I get it, man. I love Dilla too, but if you don't want to go 20 songs down with Dilla versus Dr. Dre, you just don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like it. I know that it's very popular to go out there and go against the grain and say things like, Steph Curry's better than Michael Jordan or something like that, man. But we got to keep it real, man. Dr. Dre's work speaks for itself.
Y'all are still thinking with your comparative mind. Y'all are thinking comparative.
Well, even on a
Just judge
comparative
Snoop.
level, though, Leroy, even on a comparative level. And I
It's
love
being
Kanye.
comparative.
And I've said that there are certain things about Kanye's production style that I favor over Dre's production style. But give me the most recent Kanye West album produced by Kanye West that I could match up to this. I don't have it. You know what I'm
But
saying? And
even if we don't like,
not to mention
even
that
if we don't like
Dr. Dre got in this game in the early 80s. So he got here before everybody, and he's still here in 2024 producing an album at this level. Like, come on, man.
even if we don't like Ye's music or a Ye album, are we gonna front on his production? Is that what we're gonna do? Because if people are gonna front on Dr. Dre as a producer and as an engineer first, I think that's a misstep. You can't front on that man's sound quality because that's just being crazy. Like if we are into sound quality, that's why we love music. Am I correct? So this is Dr. Dre. Are we gonna front on Dr. Dre? Now, are we gonna front on Snoop Dogg is official tissue. We've been hearing this man for 30 years. He held it down for hip hop. He never makes hip hop look crazy. He stands on his square and he's a real G. Are we gonna front on Snoop Dogg? I mean, So
I mean,
okay, now or never.
y'all got no love for Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre?
Y'all
Let it
ain't
be
got no
known.
love for Snoop and Dre. Like,
listen, Leroy, where are we at in hip hop right now when niggas is fronting on Snoop and Dre? Like, I would like to think that I'm very objective on this microphone. If they would have dropped some in, I would have said it. I have no problem with that. I have criticized Dr. Dre's production this year on the Marsha Ambrosia.
I got no problem with that.
Everybody loved. So
if the album was not good,
I would have no problem saying that. I think that again, we got to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, why are we fronting on Snoop and Dre of all people? Because if them niggas went out there and tried to make Doggy Style and they was talking about fucking bitches and six foes and all that, y'all would say that they're too old to be making that. And you would be right. But they actually went out here and made a quality album without any of that stuff.
They could make that. They could make that.
Roll. Did a record with Sting. You know what I'm saying? Put some new artists on. Put people like BJ the Chicago Kid that a lot of people don't know. Put them on multiple tracks. You know what I'm saying? Right. Let some of the lesser known people shine. Like, what are we talking about? Did y'all want like a gangster party or something? Like, what do we want?
Hey, Gangsta Pose, the second to the last song. Again, the beat switches again. It sounds like Corrupt on the hook. That's 2 songs in one. 2 hooks, a beat switch, 2 songs in one. Again, that's the 3rd time he did this on this album, y'all. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Yeah, and the verses are melodic. The verses are melodic. This man is giving you 3 songs in one song. And he's doing that on multiple times on his album. Do y'all even register what I'm saying to y'all? That doesn't get done in hip hop. That does not happen.
People are saying that I'm not being objective, Leroy, and I want to have this conversation that you and I had offline. Now, one thing I will say about this album that I would critique is it doesn't really sound like Snoop wrote all these records. Now, that I can say. And I do think that there was some ghosts going on. Crooked Eye, he made a post where he, had him, Dre, and Snoop in the studio, and he had Shangri-La as the song. And it does sound like I can't confirm this or anything, but it does sound like Crooked Eye could have written that record. Now,
shout out to Crooked, man. That's
now, but if that is the critique that people have of this album, that there may have been some writers here and there helping Snoop with some things here and there, I can deal with that critique. And again, if I'm being objective, some of these records don't sound like Snoop Dogg top to bottom. They don't.
Man, and if Snoop wanted to bar y'all up, y'all don't know who you dealing with. Snoop is not no weak rapper. If he wanted to bar you up, trust me, he'll bar you up.
Well, trust me. We know
now, I know what you're saying. And the last song, Negotiator, fire. So I gave y'all 15 songs that was fire from one album, and I skipped the singles. Do y'all know how crazy that is?
Well, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and say that Snoop can't rap. But again, I think that we've had this conversation as it pertains to Drake, right? Like, even if you have written like 90% of your stuff, if you get caught in a moment where you didn't write some of your stuff, people hold it against you. Michael Williams of the Super Chat says, Mike, Dre's production on Missionary is not seeing Kanye's production on Daytona. Y'all know I love Daytona. I love Daytona a lot. I think.
Who you think Kanye studied? Listen to Kanye.
Let me respond to that, because he said that to me, and y'all know how much I love Daytona.
Y'all tripping on Snoop as a rapper. Y'all got Snoop messed up. If y'all think he ain't barring up.
I do think from a production standpoint, it's a hard comparison because, again, Daytona is 7 songs, and I think it's a different approach when you talk about beats and rhymes. I do think that Kanye and Pusha T locked in. They picked the best beats that were for that situation. But if we're talking about an overall production job, and we're talking about, the hooks coming together, the reframes coming together, the way things are blending, it would be hard for me to sit here and say that Daytona is a quote unquote better production job than Missionary because there were so many innovative things that Missionary did. But if you like the beats on Daytona better than the beats on Missionary, I totally understand that. Because
We're
I could
comparing
probably go with that.
Kanye
I could
West.
go with that. Because the games we play, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like hard piano, crazy. Like Santeria,
If y'all
crazy.
want to compare, Kanye West to Dr. Dre, I'm not going to explain to y'all why y'all shouldn't be doing that. Just go ahead and
Well,
do that.
I will say this, man. I do think
Go ahead
that
and do that. But
I
trust
think what
me,
Kanye does, I think what
trust me,
Kanye does that would
it's not the
put him
same.
in a it's I mean they're two different producers. What Kanye does is Kanye will actually take an MC and highlight what they do best and kind of meet them in their world, whereas Dr. Dre kind of brings you into his world and kind of has you work within the confines of what he does. He's kind of a system producer, if you will. I think it's the
Dr.
difference
Dre can
between
do both.
Kanye and Phil Jackson or something. Like I said, what Kanye did with Common on B and what Kanye did with Pusha T on Daytona is incredible. And I think what Snoop
Yeah.
and Dre just did, they kind of met each other in their own worlds. Because I will give Dre credit, he didn't approach this like he was dealing with 19-year-old Snoop. They didn't even. I'll give Dre credit for this too. He didn't even default to the gangster shit. Like he could have easily just defaulted
Yeah.
to the gangster shit.
Again, I don't think people know Dr. Dre is an engineer. And that's an engineer. So I don't think y'all know what y'all talking about because you're thinking of Dr. Dre as a producer, and he is a producer. But what makes Dr. Dre is his engineering skills. That's what y'all not catching because you're comparing him to Kanye West. We're talking about engineering, not
I don't like how
production.
you sound like you're knocking Ye and his production. I think
But y'all
obviously
are comparing Ye to Dr. Dre. Now I don't know if y'all know
I don't
Dr.
think it's
Dre's
that.
resume, but
I
Dr.
don't know
Dre
if it's
was
that
around.
far off of
Dr.
a
Dre
cut.
was around 20 years before Kanye already lighting shit up. So I think y'all better think about who y'all talking about. You know what I mean?
Well,
I love
this
Kanye's
would be
production.
this would be my response to that though, Leroy. I do believe that if Kanye would have had Rakim, we would have gotten something, right? I do believe that if Kanye would have had, Eve during the time that Dre had Eve, we would have gotten something. I think that the knock on Dre is the fact that, if it doesn't work out in the way that Dre wants it to work out, it just doesn't happen. Now,
I
Snoop
don't
is a
think
different case.
Rakim. I don't think Rakim could ever do what Snoop does on any level. And I love you, Rakim. I love you.
What?
I love
I
you.
don't know.
But
There's a little album
I think
called Paid in Full that could say
I think
otherwise.
Snoop is able to change flows 4 or 5 different times in one song. I don't think you're able to do that. And I love you.
So what? Hold on,
I don't
what do you think about the songwriting and the anthems that are on
now,
Paid in Full?
when
Because Paid in Full is a very heavy album.
I get it, and I don't want to make it. See, we're in a comparative mode, which I understand, but I
But
just
you
don't want
said
to lose my
that.
point
You
with
said that
writing. With
Rakim can't
writing,
do what Snoop does.
if you're a hip hop icon, you should not be writing your own raps by yourself. Now
Wait a
that's
minute.
gonna be
Wait a minute. Wait, hold. Rewind.
if
Rewind.
you're a
Are
hip
you?
hop
Are
icon,
you? Hold. Stop that. Hold. Are you
yeah,
co-signing rappers having ghostwriters?
you damn right. Do y'all know what a hip hop icon is? That means they not a rapper no more. That means they speak to the world. So yes, a rapper can write his own raps. Kanye West could write his own raps. Drake could write his own raps. Snoop could write his own raps. But you know why ghostwriters is necessary? Because sometimes you need a hook. Sometimes you need a bridge. Sometimes you need a pre-chorus. Sometimes you need a different perspective. I There is no icon that should be writing songs by themselves. Are you serious? You're an icon. I don't
Well,
care
what
if
makes
it's
you an
Nas.
icon?
I don't care if
Hold
it's Nas. I
on.
don't
If
care
you're
if
an MC first, what
you're
makes
an
you an icon?
icon.
So you don't think Jay-Z should write his own raps?
But I'm not saying they can't though. See, people are gonna misconstrue it as if I'm saying they can't write their own raps. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when not, I'm gonna use Nas, right? Because Jay is writing in his head. That he's not even writing, so I can't compare him because he doesn't write at all.
Well,
But
that's
I'm gonna
still
use
right.
Nas.
That's
I'm
still
gonna use
right.
that's not that's in your head. You ain't writing nothing down. I'm gonna
No, but
use
it's
Nas,
still he writes in his head though. It's
but
not.
he can't
It would
see the
be no.
words.
It would not be
He can't
writing
see
if
the
he was
words.
freestyling. He's not freestyling. He's writing
He
in his
can't
head.
see the
It's
words,
just not.
bro. Look. If Nas was in the studio, we know Nas needs no help whatsoever. But you
Yeah.
don't mean to tell me, you mean to tell me that if Sahai also was writing and Lupe was also writing, you don't mean to tell me that Nas could look at that and find reference points. He could find certain deliveries, he could find certain pockets, he could find certain concepts to build on and take off. This is why you writing in a group is not a bad thing. If Lupe and Sahai and Common are in the same room writing with Nas, it's not gonna make the song worse. It's just
Michael
not.
Williams. Michael Williams with the super chat says, Leroy, you've been on this space for years talking about lyricism and literary
Yes,
devices, and now
yes.
you say Rakim can't compare to Snoop. Twilight Zone.
Listen to this album, Missionary. I want you to pay attention to how many times Snoop's switches cadence in one song. Now I want you to listen to Rakim and tell me, is Rakim switching cadences and using melodics in his verses? Is Rakim using melodics? Now I want you to
Does he
compare the
need
two.
to? Does he need
No,
to though?
since y'all comparing, then I need Rakim to be using melodics because you are comparing.
Well,
You
that's
just
like us
compared.
saying that we need Snoop to be as lyrical as Rakim because that's not gonna
No,
happen.
but people in the chat are saying Snoop wasn't lyrical. I listen to Missionary, and them lyrics are very solid to me. I'm sorry.
Oh
The
no,
lyrics are
more
very
than
solid.
solid. I mean, I don't even believe that he wrote all of the stuff, but I think
Write
listen,
something simple.
let's go back because you're
You know
talking
how
about
hard it
the
is
fact
to
that
write something simple? Y'all think
hold on,
writing something
let's rewind,
complicated is
Leroy.
hard?
No,
Write
slow down,
something
Leroy.
simple.
Slow down.
Okay.
All right. So you're saying that an icon, and that's
Yeah.
probably where you're losing me at. You're telling
Yes.
me an icon shouldn't be writing their own raps. And I think
Okay.
that when you come to the hip hop world and hip hop made you an icon and you became an icon from rhyming, I think that that doesn't work, right? You know, what makes you an icon? Like what made Michael Jackson an icon? That's like saying that he didn't need to dance himself or actually sing with his real voice. And I think that what separates MCs from, you know, guys who it's the writing ability. And we know that Snoop can rap. Now, this is what I will give you. This is the caveat I will give you. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Ye had Nas and dropped the ball. That is true. I will concede to that.
Yes.
Now,
I'm
I
not
think
saying to
where
leave
I
your pen
will
at home.
concede here, or where I will play devil's advocate here, I do think that Snoop has a rather demanding schedule, possibly, right? You know, we see him everywhere. He has endorsements everywhere. And I don't know if people think that Snoop's going to be locked in the studio, just sitting here writing rhymes with pen and a pad by himself and not taking any help from anybody. But I think with a demanding schedule like that, and you're having a deadline on an album like that, you know, he might not be sitting there writing every single bar. And if he's not, are we holding that against him? Because we know what Snoop can do with the pen,
No.
and we know that he's written for others. But again, that's that Drake argument again, where it's like, are we going to punish somebody because, you know, they may have had a song or two written for them, whereas we know that this person wrote songs for others? KRS-One himself said if Rakim wrote him a song, he would quote it.
Two things though. Two things. Do y'all think that Snoop doesn't have the ability to write a song? We know he has that ability. So this talking point don't even matter. Because we
Mike
know.
Williams in the chat says Leroy. Freddie Gibbs
Okay.
switches flows, cadences, and uses more melodies than Nas. Does that mean that Nas can't see Freddie? Good comparison.
Yes. Okay, yes. I would say if we're comparing Nas and Snoop, I would say this album rings off in an arena differently than what Magic would do.
What about
Okay.
KD3? Because
Now
I want to, when we're talking about big
and
anthems
different
and
than
big
what
songs
KD3
and
would do.
switching
Y'all,
flows and
y'all,
switching beats, I want to
y'all are
compare it to
thinking I'm
KD3.
saying
I
that
think
these
that's a
rappers
better
don't have
comparison.
abilities. I'm not
Hold on,
saying
did
these
you hear me?
rappers don't have the ability.
Did you hear me, Leroy? I think that if
Yeah,
we're
you're
talking about
KD3.
cadences, if we're talking about production, cadences, flows, and putting together anthems and complete pieces of work, I think KD3 is a better comparison to Missionary than Magic would be.
I
Is
don't
that
think
fair?
y'all want. I don't think y'all want to compare Snoop Dogg to Nas in an anthem capacity. I don't think y'all want to do that. Now we're going back to the ghostwriting thing. If
Okay.
LL Cool J is in the studio with Black Thought, do you think the song's gonna come out worse because Black Thought was there? That's what I'm saying. Just common
Well,
sense. Two
all right.
minds are
I hear
better
what
than
you're
one.
saying. I hear
Two
what you're saying,
minds
Leroy, but
are
this is what the
better
people
than
say,
one.
right? This is what the people are saying. How can you be an all-time great if you
Yeah.
have somebody else writing your bars? Like, let's just say me and you are in the studio
Yes. Yes.
and you write some rhymes for me. How could
Yes.
I ever go out there and be ranked over you? And let's just say our catalogs are comparable. How
Right.
could I ever be ranked over you as an MC if, when it came down to it, you had to write my bars?
Because let's say I put in 25 years of me proving already that I was dope. So I've already proven to you, to the world, for 25 years that I'm dope. So if I need help with a hook, then if you write a better cadence for a hook than I write, that's okay. But if I take a look, we're I need 16 bars or 16 bars, right? So we break 16 bars into 4-bar sections, right? So if somebody comes in and says, okay, Sky Zoo, we all know Sky Zoo needs no help writing. But if they say switch the second line with the third line, take out 2 words of the 6th line. That's also ghostwriting, y'all. That's editing. That's editing. So what I'm saying is you could be the greatest rapper, but you cannot master all 50 techniques. Do you know how many techniques there are to writing songs? They're close to 100. So if you think you're going to master every technique within 3 minutes of a song, you're not gonna do that. Now again, if Drake is in the studio by himself, or Snoop is in the studio by himself, or Kanye, or anybody, we know they can work by themselves. I'm not saying that they do not have ability. What I'm saying is a group will always have more options than one man. Because when you're one, I always tell people, if you want to be the best rapper, write all your rhymes by yourself. Go in a room and just be by yourself. But if
Well,
you
that's
want
what
to be icon, if you want to be an icon, a global icon, I say get a group, because a group is going to think globally, and they're always going to have multiple options on the table. Use this, use that, use this, so you can play off. If you want to be an icon is not about being the best rapper. It's about being an icon. That's a different goal.
Okay, all right. I hear
Yeah,
everything you're saying. And
yeah.
well, with all of that being said, and Snoop is who he is, and we know how you feel about lyricism and literary devices. Where do you rank Snoop as an all-time MC if he has help writing his stuff?
Snoop is one of the greatest lyricists of all time. Let
Where
me
do you have
explain.
that?
Snoop is one of the,
Top
Snoop is
10,
one.
top 15, top 20?
Oh yeah, easily. If anybody has
Which
Snoop
one?
not a 10 lyricist, you are confusing complexity of language, thinking that flow doesn't matter.
So
And see
let me clarify,
where
let me be
Snoop
clear.
gets
You
y'all.
have Snoop, oh, Leroy, let me be
Mm,
clear. Do you have Snoop
yes,
as a top 10 MC all time? Top 10.
he has to be. We're talking about somebody. We're talking about somebody whose lyrics are call and response, meaning when you first hear his lyrics, the second time you hear that song, you already have it memorized. How? It's because he is melodically giving it to you. Now, he's not Nelly. He's not Nelly. But again, what I'm saying is 1, 2, 3, and to the foe. Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre is at the door, ready to make an entrance, so back on up. Like all them little
So
that's a
would you
jazz
put
instrument. That's
would you put
instrumentation. Snoop is not a human. He's an instrument. And when
let
y'all
me ask
understand
you
he's an
something.
instrument, y'all understand.
Not to cut you
Yeah.
off, but let me ask
Yeah.
you this. Would you put Snoop over Black Thought on an all-time list? Thumbs up in the chat.
Now, when we're talking lyricism, people are going to say complexity automatically wins. What I need y'all to understand is if I play Black Thought on in a group setting, meaning there are 20, 30 people there, they're going to say Black Thought is an incredible lyricist. When I play Snoop Dogg, they are going to dance and sing along. Well, what is making them dance and sing along? Well, Snoop's cadence has a rhythm. So if you have a conversation with someone and you speak very calmly, notice how the other person you're talking to also speaks very calmly. That's a mirror effect. So when Snoop is rapping with a slick Rick cadence on Pressure, I'm gonna and people start relaxing. That is writing.
No,
That is a
I mean,
writing
you're
technique.
saying all that, but would you put Snoop over Black Thought on an all-time list?
I could easily do that. Do y'all know Snoop's reputation in hip hop?
I
Do y'all
mean,
know who y'all
Black
dealing
Thought
with?
has an incredible catalog. I think that because Black Thought was a member of the Roots, I think a lot of people discount, how much emceeing that he did for the legendary Roots crew. Like if we're talking about just mic performance, that's him. You know what I mean? Like they have some features and stuff here and there, but for the most part, you got classic records like You Got Me, The Movement. You got Proceed, Never Do
Black
What They
Thought
Do.
is one of
Like
my favorite
these are
lyricists.
classic
But
hip hop records, and he's also
Black
went
Thought
out
is
there and did the Danger Mouse stuff. Like, and he's shown over
Black
time that he could get doper and doper as an MC.
Black Thought is
And so,
incredible.
yeah, I mean, I think that we can be discounting Black Thought as well, and we
Black Thought
know
is
that Black
incredible.
Thought wrote all
Give
of
me
his
give me
stuff.
give me the last verse on the last song on Phrenology. Give me the second verse on something from Game Theory. Give me a verse from Beautiful. Give me a verse from Drop It Like It's Hot. You see the difference?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean one is a better MC than the other. I think that if we're being honest here, I think that yes, obviously, Black Thought is the more ferocious MC, in my personal opinion. Now,
Of
I do
course.
think that Snoop has a catalog that it's tough for anybody to match up with. Like he's been here for a long time, and he has an excellent catalog. He has tremendous highs, and he has a lot of lows in there too. But if we're talking about a level of consistency and continuously getting better as an MC, I mean, people will be hard pressed to find an MC better than Black Thought. And I think it means something that if you're sitting there in the booth or
Yeah.
on Sway and you're sitting there with Method Man and you out rap Method Man and he has to pick up his phone and MC to that caliber, I think that means something.
I
Michael
mean,
Williams,
Method Man is one of the greatest lyricists of all time. So when you compare Snoop, notice you have to bring out one of the greatest lyricists to compare. That's not an
yeah, he
accident.
has a great catalog. Michael Williams with the super chat says, Leroy, the entire chat is in awe. We've listened to you wax poetic about lyricism, wordplay, devices, metaphors forever, and now it's Snoop over Black Thought.
Notice
Yeah.
I'm saying hook writing. Notice I'm saying hook writing. See, that's gonna go
Well,
over a lot of
how much do you weigh
that's
hook
gonna go
writing?
over a lot of y'all. Do you know that hook writing is also a part of lyricism?
Well, if
Let's
that's
be
the case, let's look at Outkast. If that's the
let's
case,
be
maybe
clear.
we should put Big Boy over Andre easily. Because if we're looking at Outkast's catalog and songs like "It's Like That Now," "You Better Go," Get the hump about your back now. That's Big Boy.
I
Rosa
mean,
Parks.
that's one of
That's
the
Big
great.
Boy.
I heard you talking about that song, and no, I
And
heard you talking
nobody,
about AOTY,
yeah, and so
right?
nobody really factors that in when we're talking about people like Big Boy. So I don't know. I guess we got to figure out
No,
what's more
but
important. But I do agree with you in the fact
their
that
best
when
song
we're
don't
talking
have
about
no
somebody
lyrics.
like a Snoop Dogg, when we're talking about somebody like a Snoop Dogg, there's clearly a lot of characters in play. There's a lot of writers in play. And even when we're talking about Dr. Dre, there's a lot of producers in play. There's a lot in play. And that's one of the reasons why I do say that Missionary does sound head and shoulders above many of its peers, because one thing that I will objectively say, this was clearly a team effort. And it was a team of people, production-wise, that worked on this with Dre. And it seems like there were possibly a team of writers that worked on this with Snoop as well. Now,
I mean, again,
what
Snoop has hook writers, people that write hooks. Y'all
you don't think
underestimate the
that, wait a
y'all
minute, you don't think
underestimate the
Crooked I
power of a
wrote the
hook.
verses? You don't think that Crooked I wrote the verse on Shane LaRock?
Y'all underestimate the power of hooks. That's what I want to get to.
Answer
Now,
my
we talk
question.
about verses.
Do you
I
think
think
Crooked I
y'all. I
wrote
think
the
y'all
bar?
don't know. I think y'all don't know how deadly Snoop is with a verse. Snoop is
Do you
very
think?
deadly. The verse.
I hear you, but do you think you know how Crooked Eye sounds? You met
Right.
Crooked Eye. You went to
Yeah.
Crooked Eye's session or whatnot. Do you not think that Crooked Eye wrote those bars on Shay LaRock?
I think Crooked Eye has a specific cadence that I did not hear Snoop using. I think
I
I think
disagree with you wholeheartedly.
I think Crooked used Snoop's flow and not his own flow, because Crooked has a very distinct flow. He has a very distinct flow. Like, and I don't think Snoop was doing that. Now, again, though,
What do you guys think
we
in
are
the chat?
y'all try to write something simple and have a career like Snoop, y'all. Try to write something simple and do what Snoop does. And y'all realize how hard it is when you try to do it yourself. When you don't try to do it, you don't understand how hard it is to be Snoop, because you ain't gonna try it. Try to write something simple and see if it's easy.
My mere thoughts with the super chat says Leroy might be right to a degree, because the weakest part about Jay-Z's skill set is creating hooks. He definitely seeks help quite often. And you know what? It's interesting because I remember when
Did that affect his career at all? Did hooks affect
don't get
Jay's career at
defensive.
all?
Don't get defensive.
So
We're
the
just
answer
being
is no.
objective, and I think that no. I think that is an astute assertion. Now I will
Dude
say
had
this:
one of the greatest runs in hip hop history.
we know that. Don't get defensive, Jay-Z fans. All right.
Like,
I remember when Kingdom Come came out, and I thought it was weak. And I didn't really understand why, because, I just thought it was weak. You know what I mean? We didn't really analyze things like that much at that point. But, or at least I didn't at that point. But I think one of the reasons why Kingdom Come is so weak is because this was the first time Jay really attempted to do a lot of the hooks. Even Show Me What You Got. You know what I'm saying? Like, those records didn't have, it was something missing that we didn't know was missing, because we never really seen Jay attempt that many hooks. Another album that was weaker for him, where he attempted a lot of hooks, was Holy Grail. Where,
I think
feels like Holy Grail's great. But
I think listening to Jay for hooks is like listening to Black Thought for hooks. When I came up, people listened to Jay for verses. That's what I remember. My friends listened to Jay for verses.
I agree
They
with
wanted to
you,
hear
but
the verse.
I think that the dichotomy here and the conflicting thing here is, we don't look at Black Thought as a hit maker, but we do look at Jay-Z as a hit maker. And a large part of hit making is being able to make the hook. So when Jay is a hit maker that doesn't do hooks well, it's like, oh, he's getting help when it comes to the hooks. Like,
None of that
let's
affected
look
him.
at Jay's bigger songs, right?
If Jay
Emil
has
was
a
very
bad hook,
pivotal.
is that going to
No,
affect the song?
no,
If
no,
Jay
no.
has a bad
Look,
hook, does
again,
that stop the song? Because the verses are so strong that it pushes the hook out the way anyway.
you're just kind of you
Do y'all
contradicted
understand
yourself here.
why I
You
say
kind of
Snoop?
just contradicted yourself. Hooks
No,
matter.
but do
And
y'all
you
understand why I said Snoop is a better hook writer than Black Thought? Do y'all really understand what I just said?
Well, I think we're all saying the same thing, but you don't want to concede to the fact that, you know, Jay-Z, when it comes to his hooks, his most
That's fine.
successful records,
That's
somebody else handled the hooks, correct? Like,
There
what
are
would you say
people.
are Jay's strongest songs?
There are people that are trash at hooks that are rap icons, so I'm okay with that.
What would you say are Jay's strongest songs? Strongest hit records?
I mean, again, I'm from the era where people listened to Jay for verses. They were not
No, I
listening
got
for
you.
hooks. I don't think I ever met one person, not one, that ever listened to Jay like, oh man, I'm really gonna check out this album for the hooks. I don't think I've ever met that person ever in my life. Now,
Well,
now I'll
since
give it to you. Now,
you're not gonna do it.
Hard Knock Life, I think is his biggest record, and Empire State of Mind. So those
That's
are not
Annie
him
and
on the
Alicia
hook.
Keys. That's
That's
Annie and
genius.
Alicia.
God, do you
Um,
know why using Alicia Keys is a genius move?
I
If you
mean,
can't sing,
when you're not great at hooks, yes, of course. I mean, you got to do that. Like, okay, give it
but
to me.
let's say Jay is
For real.
trash. Let's say Jay is
Uh,
trash at hooks. Let's say he's total
let's dial it
trash.
back. Let's dial it back.
Does that affect his career? Does
Let's
that affect
unpack.
his career?
Obviously not, because you know what? At the end of the day, Jay is very, very smart. He knows where his
Raekwon
weaknesses
doesn't
are.
make my favorite
Oh,
hooks.
let me
I love
finish. Let me
Raekwon.
finish. Huh? Oh, we're not going to change this. I'm not
Raekwon,
going to allow you to do that. We're not going to change
Raekwon
this.
doesn't make my
No,
favorite
no, no.
hooks.
Let's
I
stay
love
on topic.
Raekwon.
Let's stay on topic, Leroy. Let's stay on topic. Let's look at Jay-Z's bigger records, right? You got Hard Knock Life. That's Annie on the hook. Can I
Yeah.
get a what? That is that's pretty much Emil, and obviously Ja Rule made that hook, right? Even if we're talking about, you know, stuff like Jiggle Jiggle, Emil again.
Peace to Professor
Do It
Sauce
Again,
Money.
Emil
Peace to
again.
Sauce Money.
Shout out to Sauce Money. I think, and I'm gonna give Jay props here. I think the Rock Boys is one of his strongest hooks for one of his hit songs. That's him doing the hook. I'll also give him credit for Foxy Brown's "I'll Be."
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you could just tell your fan base. Let's say you're a dope rapper and you go out there and you tell your fan base, "Hey, look, I'm trash at hooks." What if you just tell them that? Do you think they're gonna stop buying your records because you just blatantly told them you're trash at hooks? No,
I mean, it's not about that. I mean, again,
no.
we're analyzing the game from afar. Like Michael Jordan didn't have the 3-point shot that Kobe had. That doesn't mean he wasn't a better player. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just looking at the attributes of the individual. And if you look at Big Pimpin', that's Pimp C and Bun B all over that hook. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
would tell
when
you
you look at
this: Jay-Z's songs get played. Jay-Z's singles get played more than almost every rapper you've ever known in your life.
I think Nas is a better hook MC than Jay is. Because you got stuff like How You Like Me Now.
Jay-Z could live.
Wow.
Jay-Z could live off one single. Jay-Z could have lived his life, his financial life. He could have lived off one single.
No one is
He didn't even
refuting
need those other
you know,
songs.
it's funny. You sound like an Eminem fan whenever we critique Eminem's style and all. It's like he sold records though. Like we're not talking about that. We know.
Let's
Jay
say M is trash.
gonna bring
Let's say M is trash. Does that affect his performance? Let's say he's trash. No,
Eminem's
like
gonna
y'all
do
don't like
numbers,
M's
man.
albums, right? Y'all don't like M's albums, right? His Rust Belt, light pop rock albums. Y'all don't like his pop rock Rust
Now
Belt
Russ
album.
Belt MCing.
So, because y'all don't like his albums, do y'all think that's affecting his bottom line?
Somebody asked when is the Fresh Out collabo going to happen? I reached out to Fresh Out on Twitter. I need to email them or whatever. We can make that happen. My mere thoughts with the super chat says, why is Leroy defensive about Jigga getting support on his hooks? But he just said Nas and other greats could use help from others. True. You're contradicting yourself again.
Okay, let's
You
say
said
Jay is trash. Let's say Jay is trash. Okay.
Don't go to the extreme. Why is
No,
it? Why
I
is
don't
it a
care.
problem
I
for Jay
don't
to
care
get
no
up?
more. Jay is retired. I don't care. He
Oh,
already did what he had to do.
now that's for
He
damn
already
sure. We're
did.
not gonna get
He
another Jay
already
Z
did
album.
what he had to do. Y'all can't erase history. So if y'all don't fuck with Jay, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what?
But
I will say this.
listen. I do think more heads are better than one head. I think if Kanye was making My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in a room by himself with no help, I don't think the lyrics sound the same as having help. So
Well, this
yes,
is
I think help is better than no help. Yes.
this is Jay's formula, right? And well, there's twofold. And you know, I asked you to let me finish this because I know you're gonna get defensive and jump in and defend Jay. First of all, Jay was smart enough to understand that soundtracks, at least back then, have a separate budget. You know what I'm saying? And every hit single or first single he attached to a movie, which was incredibly smart because back then, you know, you had production houses that were willing to pay for music videos if you showed clips of their movie, and it was almost like a running advertisement. So he had Ain't No Nigga on the first album, boom, Nutty Professor. He had Who You With, boom, what was that, Sprung? And then you had Can
If
I
I
Get Her?
tell rappers
Rush Hour.
that movies are
Yeah.
very lucrative, they'll look at me like I'm stupid. I'll tell rappers, you know what?
Can I Get Her? Rush
Rappers
Hour,
are very.
right? Oh,
I'll tell rappers
let me finish,
movies
Leroy.
are lucrative. They'll look at me like I'm tripping. Like
Leroy.
movies ain't.
Calm down, Leroy. Calm down. Can I Get Her? Rush Hour, right? And then he had volume 3. I know he did something. I know the Blue Streak shit. He might have skipped it on volume 3. I think he finally outgrew it on volume 3, but he still had Hey Poppy and all that stuff that was ringing. But he was smart enough to understand that. That was part of Jay's formula. But the other part of Jay's formula was the fact that he had the bars. He didn't write his stuff down, so he was able to spit his shit. But you could tell that all of his hit songs or even some of his B-side stuff was already kind of cultivated before he jumped in there and, you know what I'm saying, and wrapped it up. You could hear a song like Give It To Me already being what it is, and he just jumps in there, spits his bars, boom. It's not like
Look,
he ever had to. Early on, Jay never did any hooks, if we're keeping it real. Like, he did hooks like Can I Live? Can I Live?
people will look at a business move from Jay and they'll think Jay is the dumb person. Like he'll
No,
actually
it's
be
not.
successful. And they'll be like, yeah, Jay, he made his money doing a deal. He must be an idiot. Like, I don't get the logic. You know what I mean? Now, if let's say you're not good at making hooks, is that okay? I think that's okay.
Is
I
Nas
don't
better at
think
hooks
you
than
need to
Jay,
be good
in
at
your
hooks.
opinion?
Huh?
Is Nas
I
better at
don't think
hooks
you
than
need to
Jay?
be good at hooks. If you're just gonna bar me to death, well, my ears are acclimated to bars anyway. So like if you take a
Uh,
Rock Marci and Rock Marci's like, you know what, Leroy, I'm just gonna bar you to death. I'm gonna say, okay, I don't need you to make a hook for me, Rock Mars. Like you don't have
so now
to. Like,
So now that Jay's not good at hooks, making hooks don't matter. Black Wealth and Power with the super chat says, Mike,
okay,
I think
all
that
right.
you and the chat need to revisit Magna Carta. It's nowhere near as bad as you remembered it. I'll revisit it. I'm pretty sure it is still bad.
Here's
Let me
the
ask
thing
you
with
this,
Magna
Leroy.
Carta. Jay-Z did a tech deal to which the album surpassed 1 million out the gate, and people thought Jay's the dumb one.
I
Think
mean, it's
about what
smart.
I'm saying.
It's cheat
Think
code
about what
stuff.
I'm now. Look, either you're stupid or you're smart. We have
You
to
know what
pick
else
one.
Jay did after
Either
he
Jay
lost
is stupid. Listen, folks. Either Jay is stupid or he's smart. Y'all pick which one he is.
I
Now,
don't
if
think
you come
anybody
out,
ever
now
said
listen,
Jay is stupid.
rappers are having trouble selling. Now, these phone companies would love for you to attach your brand to their phone, their new phone. You would automatically sell with the phone. Now, rappers, oh, I can't do that because I'm too gangster for that. Make
I
it
don't
make
know if it's
sense.
about being gangster per se, but you don't think
Make
that's
it make
fixing the numbers?
sense.
Hold on. Is that not juicing the numbers? I mean, he's kind of
No,
cooking the
but
numbers.
Jay told you, look, if you get the phone and you download the app, you will get my album attached with the phone. So he didn't try to pull a fast one. He straight up told y'all what it is.
The raising
Now
hand with
listen,
super
listen.
chat says,
You have hardcore fans that pay $1,000 for one album. Now, is that smart or is that stupid? Y'all make the line. Y'all make the decision.
I don't think anybody ever said Jay was stupid. The raising head with the super chat says, when Leroy is losing a debate, he cuts you off. Let me ask you this, Leroy.
Okay.
Do you think that Nas is a better hook maker or hook MC than Jay-Z?
I would say you can Google Jay-Z and Nas. I want y'all to put hit records.
You're not going to give a straight answer.
No, look. You do not have to do the hook to be a great hook writer. That is a false narrative. Doing the hook yourself.
Oh, explain, yes. Please.
Let me explain. Because I'm gonna tell y'all, to make a song like Empire State is so difficult that y'all don't even understand how difficult it is to find the writing for a singer to sing that. That is so difficult.
Had nothing to do with that hook, right?
Bro, if y'all could do it, do it. If y'all can write it, if y'all can make a better anthem than Empire State for y'all city, then do it. I'll give y'all a month. If y'all can make a better song, do it. If it's that easy, if it's so easy, do it.
I'm gonna go. Hold on, Leroy.
To make a song like Empire State, it may take you 5 years to make that one song.
Let me do this, Leroy. Let me do this. I want to go through. No. Let me do this. I went to Wikipedia and I'm going through the background and the writing of this record. Right, Empire State of Mind was original. Hold on, let me read this for the people out there. Empire State of Mind was originally written by Brooklyn native singer, songwriter, and producer Angela Hunt and writing partner Janet Swell. Hunt grew up in the same building where rapper, hip-hop artist Jay-Z lived, 560 State Street, and the address which was mentioned on the song. The track's creation was inspired during an overseas trip that Hunt and Swell made to London in February of 2009 when they were both feeling homesick. Hunt was ill during that summer while Swell's mother was ill. Hunt recalls, we said to ourselves, we complain so much about New York, about the busy streets, about the crowds, and the pushing about the subway system, but I would trade that all for anything I'll trade all that for anything right now. Before we left the hotel that night, we knew we would write a song about our city. They sent it to Rock Nation music label the following month in hopes that Jay-Z would like the record and record it. When they received a negative response on the track, they were convinced that it would never be recorded. However, in the summer of the same year, EMI Publishing, Big John Platt, heard the track at a barbecue and fell in love with it, believing that it would be perfect for Jay-Z. Hunt and Swell were hesitant. However, they had already sent the track for consideration.
Okay, so is Jay stupid or is he smart?
No. So he had nothing to do with putting this hook together, is what I'm saying. That's my point. He had nothing to do with putting this hook together.
Okay, like if I tell you, Mike, I cannot sing very well, would you still like me to sing? So if I got someone else to sing, am I stupid or smart? Y'all make the decision. But I promise you, I sell this to all artists. Every artist that is watching and listening right now, make a song better than Empire State of Mind right now.
It was sent to him. What are you talking about? Mad Max with
that's great. That's great. Make a better song right now. If you can't
let me get to the super chats real quick. Let me get to the super chats. Mad Max in the building. Shout out to Mad Max. You're a little late, brother. He said, Mike, I'm disgusted with you and Leroy babbling on this Snoop topic. I can't believe you thought that the G-Funk pop album as a mega drop. Stop lying. We're not.
Bro, Mad Max. Snoop is a global icon. If you think it's that easy, if you think it doesn't require skill, then get someone else you know to do better than Snoop. If you think it's just so whack and so garbage, Try it. Tell someone to try it. Try to be bigger than Snoop Dogg and see what happens.
Well, Ill Magic with the super chat says, New York State of Mind is better than Empire State of Mind. I think we all know that.
Bro,
Now,
I don't think
you
y'all
didn't-
understand what you Empire State of Mind went diamond. Do y'all understand what y'all even talking about? I don't think y'all understand what
Wait a
diamond
minute,
is.
wait a minute. I know you didn't answer my question about Nas being a better hook maker than Jay, but are you sitting here on this platform saying that Empire State of Mind is a better hip hop record than New York State of Mind?
Bro, like let's pull up the hook. Let's pull up the hook because hooks are songwriting. I know y'all don't think hooks are songwriting, but yes, they are. Let's pull up the hook to
Did
New
you
York
hear how
State of
that
Mind
hook came together? So
versus
you're okay with the fact that that
bro,
song was expensive,
again,
Jay, and you want to give
y'all
him
want
credit?
Jay-Z to sing? Y'all actually want Jay to sing? That's what you're telling me? You want Jay to start singing?
I don't think
Again,
anybody said
I'm
that.
trash at singing. So I'm asking everybody in the chat. I'm telling y'all, I cannot sing. Would it be wise for me to go get a singer, or should I sing my own hooks? Now I want y'all to answer that.
Time out, Leroy. Didn't they just write a story saying that Jay-Z came up with Destiny's Child "Lose My Breath" hook?
I didn't hear.
Well, Google it.
But what I'm saying is,
Google it. They said he came up with that.
Is trash. Let's say Jay
Songwriting
is
is
trash
songwriting.
at hooks. Let's say Jay is trash at hooks. Does it matter? That's what I'm saying. If Jay is trash at hooks, does it matter?
This is what makes Jay great. This is what makes
I
Jay
never
great. He's able to
listened to
navigate.
Jay for hooks. I never, not one time in my life, in my entire life, listened to Jay-Z for hooks. Ever in my life.
Ill Magic with the super chat says Notorious Thugs is better than Empire State of Mind. No question.
Bro,
Empire
we're not
State
talking about better. If you cannot make a song that sells 10 million records, then I think you should probably be quiet.
Do you not think though that is kind of a cheat code to make an anthem for the biggest city in the United States and its metro area? It's going to do numbers because it's being treated as an anthem. It's not just a one-off song. You know what I'm saying? And you got the star power with Alicia Keys and Jay-Z on it. It's kind of a cheat code. Now, will we be honest and say that
I've been hearing rappers make songs?
Empire State of Mind doesn't really go down as one of the more important hip hop records ever, does it?
I think y'all better go outside and look at the reaction to Empire State of Mind. In California, listen, in California went crazy. When
is California love better than Empire State of Mind? I think
we're talking California. They went crazy for Empire State of Mind.
New Yorkers don't like Empire State of Mind. And I can relate to that because I don't like Welcome to Atlanta like that. I don't.
Again, y'all, I promise you that every rapper you've ever known has tried to make an anthem for their city. I can promise you that. I promise you. None of them have ever come close to Empire State. None of them.
The Raisin Head with the super chat says, if Jordan missed the dunk, if Jordan missed the dunk, Leroy would say, I like to see you do it.
Right. Like Jay-Z is so trash, right? But nobody can do better. They'd be like, well, Jay-Z, he's stealing from Young Chris. So I'd be like, well, where's Young Chris Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint, Black Album, American Gangster, Watch the Throne? Where are his albums? People be like, well, Jay's trash. I'd be like, well, spit a verse and show me better. Well, Jay's hooks are trash. Well, spit a hook and show me better. Go, what artist you know has a better run? Go find him. I'm not against people saying Jay-Z's not good at something. What I'm saying is go find somebody who did it better and let me know who they are.
The super chat says Jay-Z's best hook is Crew Love. I'm with that. I mean, listen, I don't think Jay was quote unquote trash at hooks. I don't think that he had the cadence or the voice to carry the hook on a hit record. And I think that the Rock Boys and I'll Be from Foxy Brown was one of those rare cases where that actually happened. But see, again, that kind of adds to his greatness in the fact that he understood that that was a weaker point in his game, and he went out there and sought help for
That's
it.
a weaker point in all rappers' game. We are all bad at hooks.
Not Method Man.
Let y'all know.
Not Method Man.
We are all bad at hooks because we spend most of our time writing verses. But I'm just telling you, if you have a singer and you try to sing better than a trained singer, don't be mad when they sing better than you. That's all I'm saying. So I think all rappers, I think all rappers should have help with hooks. So I'm not just saying Jay-Z, I'm saying every single rapper ever, no matter who you are. I'm saying, what does it hurt you to have help? Why does help hurt?
Time out. DMX is great with hooks. Method Man was great with hooks. We're talking about guys who were Jay-Z's peers in that whole Def Jam conglomerate or whatnot. Like, I think DMX is a 10 when it comes to hooks.
DMX is great at hooks?
Yeah.
I think he was great at hooks. In 1998, I think he was great at hooks.
Open up, shot. No. Rough Riders anthem. You got Stop Being Greedy. You got How's It Going Down. Like, DMX is great at hooks.
Give me a hook from
Dog is chic, but
give me a hook from 2008. Give me a DMX hook from 2008.
Are you gonna do that? I mean, honestly, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that because Jay had to be dope for 30 years.
Jay was never good at
somebody else. Jay had to be dope for 30 years. Why does somebody else get to not be dope for 30 years?
No. Jay never could have given you a Rough Riders anthem hook ever. Even
he gave you Volume 2. He gave you Hard Knock Life.
What are you talking about? Wait a minute. You talking about Volume 2? Who got the hook?
There's a movie about it.
Who got the hook on Money Cash Hoes? Really? Like,
there's a movie about it. Like, Volume 2 came out in the movie theater. Like, we're not saying DMX wasn't a part of that. DMX was there. But Rough Rider anthem, Hard Knock Life, I think they're in the same wheelhouse as far as popularity.
But one person did the hook and the other one didn't. You know that. Let me get to the super chat.
In 2010, they dropped Empire State of Mind. Where is DMX?
Leroy. Pause.
Where is DMX in 2010?
Leroy. Let me get to the super chats real quick. Ill Magic of the super chat says, Leroy, when I go outside, I still see people go crazy when Lil Boosie's Wipe Me Down comes on. Nobody cares. Nobody hears Empire. Mad Max with the super chat says, an anthem that nobody in NY plays, Mike. I'm from New York.
Google it. If I'm lying, Google
Leroy, chill. Let me get to these super chats, man. Mad Max says, an anthem that nobody in NY plays, Mike. I'm from NY. I never heard no one from the soil go crazy when Empire State of Mind, where I'm from, is better than Empire State of Mind. CJ Kid with the super chat says, just want to show love. Leroy, I saw you in the bigger picture chat. Hope you guys are well and healthy. Shout out to CJ Kid. Love the love. And Charles with the super chat says, Tupac was great with hooks. He was. Tupac was great with hooks.
If Empire State, if nobody was listening to that, just Google it. Either I'm lying or I'm not. Google it, and Google will let you know if I'm lying.
How'd you think Biggie was with hooks?
10 million records? I don't think I'm lying.
I don't think Biggie was with hooks. Because I think Biggie.
But what I'm saying, I never went to Biggie for hooks. Ever, not one time. Ever. I always went to Biggie for rhymes. So I'm that way with I'm that way with Jay. I'm that way with Nas. I never went to Nas for hooks, ever. I never went to Common for hooks. I never went to Black Thought, KRS-One. I never, Ghostface, I never went to these people for hooks. I always went for bars. So if I go to Jay for bars, I don't know why it's so strange that I would be looking to hear Jay spit bars. That's what I like about Jay's music. Like, that's what I like about Nas music. That's what I like about Ice Cube music. I never went to Ice Cube like, bro, you better have the dope hook. I just never went there for that. You know
Speaking of Nas, I got one for you. Made you look. You a slave to a page in my rhyme book. Getting big money, Playboy, your time's up. Where them gangsters at?
I think
Nas
fans, and trust me, because I was a Nas fan for in their primes. I think people honestly think Nas is the equivalent to Jay in mainstream music. I got news for y'all. I'm not even gonna tell y'all, but I think that y'all think Nas is the equivalent of Jay in commercial music,
I
and
don't
I
think.
think that's a misstep.
I
I
think what
think
people think.
I think that's a
And
misstep.
well, let me say this. I think what people think is Nas is the superior MC over Jay. I think that they think that
With what?
Jay, bar for bar, he is the
With,
superior MC.
are we
He's a better,
sure we want to go bar for bar?
yeah, he's a
Are y'all
better lyricist
sure?
than Jay. Yeah, I think that everyone's clear that Nas is a
So
better lyricist.
punchlines. Nas is a better puncher than Jay.
No, Nas is a better storyteller, and more times than not,
So he's not
when
a
you
better puncher.
when you have the
That's
better
a puncher is
storytelling,
line for line. A story is not line for line. Punching is
well,
line
but
for line.
also when you
You
got the
said line for
context,
line.
yeah, bar for
Punching
bar,
is
yeah.
line for line. Nas is
So hold
better
on.
at double entendres than Jay.
That's a strong part of Jay's game. I would give Jay this between the two. I would give Jay the
Scheming.
conversation. Oh, let me finish. I would give Jay the conversational edge, and I would give him the double entendre edge. Now, I hate to sound like Skip Bayless, but I do think that double entendres are kind of like triple doubles in basketball. It's a bit of an overrated stat. I think the overall better lyricist is clearly Nas. I
Try it.
mean, Nas was better
Try
earlier.
anybody who thinks I came in here talking about literary devices, and later y'all gonna respect what I said about literary devices, but I gotta show y'all because y'all don't respect it till I show you. But if it's that easy, everybody try it. Get your pen and paper out, and I want you to write 16 bars and use 16 entendres.
Well, again, I think that everybody understands that Jay is special and he's a professional at this. I mean, I think someone can critique LeBron James's game without going out there and having to complete a full NBA, game. But I mean, between the two, I mean, it is what it is. Nas the better lyricist. He's always been that. I
Yeah,
think
but
even when you
y'all
talk
not
about
telling me nothing.
even if we're talking about Stillmatic in comparison to the Blueprint, right? I think the Blueprint's a better album, but the lyricist on Stillmatic is a better lyricist than the lyricist on the Blueprint. I mean, when
But
you
when
make a record
ask,
like Rewind, you make a record like I Gave You Power, you make a record like What Goes Around Comes Around, you make records like One
people
Love.
say
I mean, better
storytelling.
MC.
Do we know that storytelling is not what I'm talking about when I talk about the literary devices? Are we clear?
I'm not even talking about just the storytelling. I think that even when you listen to Nas's Like, does Jay have a better lyrical performance in 1998, 99 than Nas's Like? He doesn't.
Okay,
Nas
let's talk
is
about
old
Nas's
school.
like. Let's talk about Nas's like
What
in lyrical
what year
exercise.
was Jay a better
Let,
lyricist than Nas? Let's break that down.
let's talk about Nas's like, which is probably Nas' greatest lyrical display. Just as far as just line for line. I'm not talking stories because a story is a continuum of lines. Line for line, Nas is like it could rank up there as Nas's greatest bar work. Now let's take lyrical exercise. In lyrical exercise, not Jay is using several entendres of exercise. Do you see what's happening here? Now I
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
used I gave you power. I could have used I gave you power and doubled down on how great the metaphors are. So I'm not going at Nas that way, but I'm saying on average, meaning on average, if you take 10 verses from Nas and 10 verses from Jay, who's more likely to use punches, metaphors, entendres, schemes, similes? Who's more likely to fill those 10 verses up with those? Why do you think people review Jay's verses? When Jay drops a verse, why would anybody care? But
I
when
think
Jay
it's hype.
drops a verse,
I mean, he's one of the
when,
greats, but it's a lot of it's hype.
no, but when Jay drops a verse, people are scanning through the lines. Well, what the hell are they
That,
looking for?
that's propaganda. I mean, I
Oh,
love
they're
Jay,
not
but
looking for nothing?
mean,
Ain't not
the
there's
fact that
nothing there?
people were doing that with the God did verse, it was like it was unnecessary. Hold
Is
on. Let me
there
get these.
something in the God verse, the God did verse? Are there double entendres there? Yes.
I mean, you tell me. I mean, it was. Were they good?
What is Nas's stronghold? If I'm gonna scan, and again, Nas is number two to me. So If I'm saying someone's number 2, that's insane. I'm calling someone number 2. You know how hard it is to be number 2? Now, granted,
A
what
lot
is
of people to
Nas's
do this
stronghold?
right.
What is Nas' stronghold? Is it entendres, metaphors, punches? What is it? It's poetics, right? It's poetics.
No, I disagree with that. I think that's a label that's been
What
put
is
on
it?
them.
What is it?
Hold on,
Story?
let me get
Are
to
you
the super
telling me
chats
Nas is
real quick.
storytelling most of the time?
Hold on, let me get to these super chats real quick before we lose the people. Hassan Sykes with the super chat says, no one goes to any rapper for hooks, but when the hooks stand out, then you know what it is, right? Michael Williams with the super chat says, Leroy, we're not going to let you do this. 45 minutes ago, you put Snoop over Rakim and Thought. Now, all of a sudden, entendres matter when it comes to Jay.
What people are going to do, they're going to say that I didn't mention Snoop's flow. They're going to say I strictly measured Rakim against Snoop's complexity, how complex Snoop is. That's what they're going to use. They're not going to say I mentioned how many times Snoop switches cadences and does Rakim switch cadences the same amount of times as Snoop does.
We got a couple more super chats. Ill Magic with the super chat says Samurai Jack's theme song is better than Empire State of Mind. Black Wealth and Empower with the super chat says, who do you think had the better run in hip hop in terms of cultural impact? Jay-Z from 98 to 03, Kanye from 04 to 10, T.I. 03 to 08, DMX from 98 to 04, 50 Cent from 03 to 07, Wayne from 08 to 12, or Snoop from 93 to 03. You know what? I got to be objective here, and I might go with that Jay-Z from 98 to 03 because honestly, everything that we're speaking about in terms of Jay-Z is based on that run. It's based on 98 to 03 for the most part because everything else is
people really think Kanye didn't come from Rockefeller. Like they think Kanye is his own entity. They don't think that Jay-Z had anything to do with Kanye. Like, really.
Ascending Keys with the super chat says, I've never heard anyone argue for New York State of Mind. Really? Maybe they meant to say something
New
else.
York State of Mind is incredible. But y'all be real. Y'all are all music fans. Let's say Alicia Keys came up to you and gave you that record. You wouldn't be extremely
Leroy, we're not going to do that. Did you not hear what I just read and how that record came? Alicia Keys didn't even come up with that record. It was two women.
No, but somebody who grew up with
Jay.
Jay.
So this thing got passed over
Grew
to
up in Jay's building.
Somebody
that grew up in Jay's building next to Jay-Z came
they
up with
put
a hook
this
about
record together from top to bottom.
About
They
Jay's
got some
the
writers
song
from
about Jay's
Brooklyn.
life.
Yeah, like Alicia
The
didn't even
song
put
about Jay-Z's life came from somebody who came up with Jay-Z. Okay.
No, they didn't come up with Jay-Z. They just happen to live in the same area. My mere thoughts in the super chat says Nas had better concepts, lyrics, substance, and his overall catalog aged better. Mad Max in the super chat says, love Jay, but Nas' opening line on Nas's Like is better than any line Hov ever said. Now that brings me to my other point. What year would you say that Jay-Z was a better lyricist than Nas? We just covered the fact that Jay's prime 98 to 03 is probably the, very untouchable era for him. What year would you say that Jay-Z was hands down a better lyricist than Nas?
Every year after 1996.
I disagree with that.
The reason why I say that,
He's not a better lyricist than Nas in 98. We just talked about Nas's Light.
The reason why I say that is because after 96, I'm going outside and I'm seeing people that don't even care about rap quoting every J bar. And I'm seeing people who love rap. I'm talking about the most hip hop head is telling me, yo, Jay is spazzing. I'm talking about the dude that loves cannabis is telling me, bro, Volume 1 is crazy. Jay is really spitting on Volume 1. The same guy that loves cannabis. Now I'm seeing someone else who loves freaking pop music. They're telling me, yo, Hard Knock Life is crazy. And they like pop music. So what I'm saying is Jay exists
What's the best verse on Volume 2?
Worlds. Jay exists in two worlds. Nas existed in one.
What's the best verse on Volume 2? In your opinion, What is Jay-Z's best verse on Volume 2?
On Volume 2, best verse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's good on a lot, but you know, I run in the park, ask him where we went wrong. Tell him life is miserable when you're dealing in the physical form. Is everything that's invisible gone? I need to know. Will I still feel pain? If I'm like, bro, like the shit he's saying on there is insanity. When he's talking about the physical form, a lot of y'all are caught up in this physical body. Y'all don't realize that you a spiritual being. So you think your physical body is you. That ain't you. That's just your avatar. Jay already knew this.
Clips inserted. A baby being born same time a man is murdered, the beginning and end. As far as rap goes, it's only natural to explain my plateau and also what defines my name. Because I was nasty. Now times have changed. Ask me now, I'm the artist. Hardcore, my signs of pain. I spent time in the game. I don't know, man. I don't know,
Right, but
man.
when we talk about
That line
devices, when our both of our verses were just run-on sentences where neither of us use devices. When we start using devices, though, that's where it gets
think
sticky.
devices are kind of overrated. I'm sorry, you gotta feel it.
Try them. If they're so easy to do, y'all, then try them. Try them. You
Well,
gonna
I think
find
the
out
difficult part,
it ain't
if
that
I'm being
easy.
honest, all jokes aside, and to bring this back to Snoop, I think the part that's difficult when it comes to all of those literary devices and all of these things is to put it in a form where you're actually able to consume it, you know what I'm saying, for mass consumption, and you're putting it in memorable records, and you're putting it
Right.
in records that people are quoting and stuff that's going to go down in history. Now, I will say this. I think that they hit the mark on Missionary. If the mission was to go out there, no pun intended, was to showcase the lyrical skills and versatility of Snoop, and also showcase the production dominance of Dr. Dre, I think they accomplished that. Because I don't care what you guys say, and you know you can hate on the record all you want, and I don't want to sound like that, because if you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm not going to sit there and call you a hater. But I think that even if this isn't your thing, I think that most people can acknowledge from a production standpoint, this production stands head and shoulders above its peers. Now, it just put out the instrumentals to this album on the deluxe. I don't know if you guys seen it on streaming platforms, but you can actually stream the whole album and the instrumentals. Now, go listen to the instrumentals and tell me that there's a producer in hip hop that produced a better album than this in 2024.
Bro, and you don't have to like an album to give it credit. Like, you don't have to like this album to say, damn, you know, Snoop and Dre did an incredible job. I made that argument when Mr. Morale came out and people was hating that. I said, look, you don't have to like Mr. Morale, but can you hear the instrumentation? Can you hear the musicianship? If you can hear, I'm not asking you to like it. I'm just asking you to acknowledge the musicianship is there. That's
Well, I felt
all.
like that about To Pimp a Butterfly, to be honest. Like, to me, To Pimp a Butterfly was leaps and bounds above what Kendrick had done previously, musically. Hassan Sykes with the super chat says, from 2018 to 2024, Jay-Z is better than Nas. How? Jay-Z hadn't dropped an album since 2017. And, you know, last time I checked, Nas dropped KD in 2020. He dropped KD2 in 2021, dropped Magic in 2021, dropped KD2, I'm sorry, KD3 in 2022, and then dropped, you know, Magic 2, Magic 3. I lose count. He has 6 albums in a matter of like 3 or 4 years, when we haven't gotten an album from Jay-Z since 2017.
That's okay.
Now, I'm with you on that one, Leroy. I think that Jay's done. We're not going to get another Jay-Z album. Hassan Sykes with another super chat says, having better songs versus being a better lyricist are two different things.
I think y'all tripping if y'all don't think Jay is killing it as a lyricist. But verses
I don't
wise,
think Jay's
Conway
coming out
got
with another album. That's it.
Conway, I know, but it's like, why would y'all ask Jay for another album after 25 years of albums? That's kind of crazy. Like, just because Nas is doing that, does that mean Jay has to follow everything Nas is doing?
No, he doesn't have to. And it's kind of like what I spoke about earlier when it comes to Outkast. It's like, okay, well, now we got to put this in context in relation
Right,
to, you know, the person's peers. It's like, okay, yeah, you guys don't have to go out there and make albums. And, you know,
right.
and Andre said that, you know, they don't have chemistry and this and that or whatever. But it's like, well, am I going to sit here and say that you better than De La Soul, who never had these kind of issues and who was able to do this from start to finish? You know, and I mean, I just wish
I
Andre would just
agree.
be. I just wish Andre would be intellectually honest about the fact that he just doesn't want to make any more Outkast stuff, and it really makes me feel like. It really makes me
Andre's
feel like
competing with himself.
I don't even know if
Andre's,
it's
you
that.
know how hard it is to compete with Andre? If
I
Andre looks
understand
in
that.
the
I think.
mirror,
Well, what I look
bro,
at when I look at Outkast now, I look at a collective, and I'm not just talking about Dre and Big Boy. I think that when you look at an album like Akumina, it was all hands on deck, just like what we're talking about with this Snoop album, right? I think that this is an
right,
all hands on deck situation, and I think that Big Boy and Dre were the front people of this. They weren't going in the lab just them two making an album. You know what I mean? Like that would be a whole different pressure. And I do think that Dre wants to do something outside of that institution. But see, my thing is you've had all of these years to do so. And why are we
bro.
even still talking about Outkast? Because my thing is, if this was about you doing your own thing and you were past all that and you had the notion that you didn't want to perform these songs, you know, when you were 25, you had the notion that you weren't going to perform these songs when you got older. Well, what have you done individually, musically, since 2003 then? You know what I'm saying? Like, it should be like one of those Lionel
Right.
Richie and the Commodores things. Like, we shouldn't even be talking about Outkast then.
But look, but Outkast is run though. Like their first
Yeah.
albums, their whole out. Like, how do you compete with that? Let's say one of us is Andre. So we gotta look in the mirror every day and try to rap better than we did on Aquemini. That's insanity. Like
Well,
we
but see,
can't. Like
I
how?
hear you, and you're right. But he downplays their catalog like it ain't like that. Like if you listen to him talk, he talked like his shit was immature. That was something I did when I was a kid. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, which is it? Is it something tough to stand up to, or was it something that
Right.
was immature and juvenile? You know what I mean? Like nobody's sitting here
I think
asking
it's
you to go
both.
out and rap like um, what's the song I'm gonna think about? No one's sitting here asking you to go out there and do Rump Shaker or something at 50 years old. Nobody's asking you to do that. But Outkast
And no,
made very mature records.
yeah, they did. They did. I'm just thinking, like, for in his mind, he's thinking, I gotta outdo my younger self. My younger self was a beast on the mic. I don't know if I could do that. Like, you asking me to rap better than I did in '98, not like in 2000. I don't know if I could do that, bro. I was a beast back then. That's what he's thinking. Like, like I'm sorry, like
Hassan,
but I get it though.
Hassan,
You know.
Hassan Sykes with the super chat says, no, Leroy said Jay was better than Nas since 96. And I'm like, how when Nas made 7 albums since 2018 and Jay stopped in 2017? Okay, I got you. Yeah.
But what is Jay competing with? You're saying, okay, so, and again, love Nas. Nas is one of the greatest lyricists ever to touch a pen, period. But is Jay competing with King's Disease 1? Is he competing with 2, 3, all 3? Magic 1, 2, 3? What is it that Jay is competing with? Is it done? Is it spicy? What is it that has Jay so pressed that he has to go to the studio to prove that he can rap good? I don't
Okay.
understand.
Let me play devil's advocate there. You don't feel like 444 was a response to Life is Good to some extent? I think what happened
But why
was,
why would he respond to Life is Good? That was about Nas's wife. Jay ain't got nothing to do with that.
but I'm saying Jay made a similar album because 444 is about Jay's
What it's
wife.
not it's
his
I never
relationship,
understood
and
why.
he had the same producer as well. So I do think
And the
that
producer doesn't understand the comparison. Like No ID doesn't understand why people make because No ID straight up said when I did beats for Life is Good and I did beats for 444, I was in a completely different creative space. So I don't understand why people think it's similar when Life is Good. Think about the title. Life is Good. Now let's go back to the sound. Does the sound enjoyable? Yes, because life is good. Now think about 444. Jay, terrible time. Now think about the sound of 444. How it sounds like Jay is having a tumultuous time. So I don't know how a tumultuous time and a happy time are similar. And the producer himself says he was in a completely different zone.
you can be in a different zone and all that, but do you not think that if Life is Good doesn't happen, you think 444 happens anyway?
I mean, so in Life is Good, Nas is talking about his relationship to his
Yeah.
loved one versus his career, right? That's the topic. Now, if we
Yeah.
go back to Kingdom Come, what is Jay talking about? His relationship with his loved ones versus his career.
You think
That Jay
so? No, I don't.
on Lost Ones, what is Jay talking about on Lost Ones? His loved ones versus his career. When Nas is talking about Queens or what is he talking about? His people in Queens versus his career. So what I'm saying is, and even with that, like Nas is talking about life is good. On the album, he's literally
Yeah.
telling you that life is good. When you listen to Jay, what has he been saying for a long time? He's been saying my life is good. So I don't know, like, what. So Nas is the only person that can have a life, can have a good life. Like, I don't.
I
Jay
think
can't
that
rap about that.
I think it's been very clear over both of those guys' careers that Nas has kind of set the template and set the blueprint for Jay, in many ways. Especially if we're
Jay
talking about
dissed himself.
from a core standpoint, he has. I mean, Jay talks about how Illmatic had everybody shook and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when it comes to collaborating with certain people, it's like, Nas would do something first or Kanye would do something first and then Jay would follow. Now, I think that what happened here is after KD1 happened, maybe Jay was probably trying to cook up something with somebody and then KD2 happened. And then boom, magic happens. And it's
But
like, damn.
why is Jay pressed
83
about what
happens. It's
Nas
like
does?
now you can't even catch up anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's
But
like
what
now
am
let
I
me talk
catching
about
up
this here.
to? I think Jay raps about his life. I think Jay spends time thinking about his life, his wife, his kids. I don't think he spends time thinking about Nas and his family.
You don't
I
think
just,
so? I
I
think at the end of the day,
no.
Jay is a competitor, and I think that
I think he
I think
salutes
that
Nas. Like,
he's a competitor, and as an MC and as an all-time great MC, and as a hip hop fan and as a New Yorker, he knows that in many people's mind, the only person that they can sit here and say that is alive, walking around, that they could say is better than him is Nas. And I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I think in
what
Jay's
data are
mind,
they using?
he knows that Nas is a better lyricist than him, and it bothers him. Like you can tell
I
even
think
when they make records together, Jay goes hard. Nas doesn't.
I think if Jay is worried about another grown man, he needs to focus on his kids. Like, if you're a
It
grown
ain't
man
about
worried
that.
about another man, dude,
I hear what
focus
you're
on your
saying.
kids,
It
bro.
ain't like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's a competitive sport. It's like when, if you're gearing up to go play ball against somebody, there's somebody who's that
But
matchup that
what
you
does
got
Nas
marked on the
have that Jay
calendar,
didn't have?
man. You got
What
you
did
got certain
Nas achieve?
matchups on the calendar.
What did Nas achieve that Jay did not achieve?
He got
That's what
the
I'm
hearts
saying.
of
Like,
you know what, no, I'm glad you asked that. I think in the
rapping a
minds
lot.
of,
So people are
are you
saying
gonna let me
Nas
finish?
raps a lot.
Well,
So Jay should
you
rap
asked
a
me a
lot.
question. Ask me a question. I think in the minds of New Yorkers and people of that era, they talk about who the greatest MC is and the greatest lyricist is. Nas's name comes up a lot. When you ask the Wu Tang
Okay.
and these guys, they'll say Nas. And those are some things that Billboard can't rectify. Those are some things that record sales can't rectify. These are things that, that really matter to somebody who is from New York and who is an MC from New
Bro,
York. And that's something that Nas has accomplished in ways that Jay didn't. Now, it's a catch-22. Once you reach a certain level of crossover success, you're going to lose some of that core stuff. You know what I mean? Like you said,
I
you
just
want to
rapped
be
I just rapped to
underpaid
the
or
group of
overrated.
if people say, okay, Jay-Z, you're not the best, we're assuming that hurts his feelings, though. I
No
think
one's saying
Jay is
that.
I'm not. I think Jay is like, okay, I'm not the best. Okay,
Well, no, no,
like
no, no, no. Let's not do that, Leroy, because if Jay didn't care about being the
I'm
king of
supposed to
New
be
York,
mad
let
that
me
y'all think
finish.
I'm not the
If
best.
Jay didn't care about being king of New York, he would never say that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Like 20 years ago, like that. I mean, again, I hear what
He
you're
don't talk
saying,
like that
but
still. Well, he don't make music
that
anymore,
means
so
that means Jay is mad. Jay is mad that someone doesn't think he's the best. I don't think he's mad. Like I think he's
Hassan
like, okay.
Sykes Super Chat says Jay is competing with Thun, Speechless, Store Run, My Bible, WTF, SMH, Michael and Quincy, Meet Joe Black, etc. Yeah, man,
So
guys.
rhyming words. Jay is competing with the ability to rhyme words. Okay.
No, just being the best, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Again,
just like,
I think if Jay is still worried about whether people think he's the best, I think he's crazy.
so you don't
Like
think
he's crazy.
on that 6-minute verse on God did he was trying to make a point?
No, I think he got in a zone. Like sometimes when bro, like I know a bunch of rappers. We always compete. We just
Yeah.
we compete all now. Last time we competed, I did not win. I didn't win nothing. Like several people won better than me, and all I did was salute. Like why would I be mad? Like I'm mad. I don't think
Well,
I'm mad.
I'm glad you brought up competing because you also have the underlining notion out there that he did lose in a rap battle to this one guy that many people in New York
What did he
felt
lose?
like is a better MC than him. He lost the battle.
What
That's
what did he
fact.
lose?
He lost the
What? But I
battle.
know, but what did he
He
lose?
lost the battle. I
Okay, so
mean,
he in people's opinion. So he lost people's
so
opinion. Okay.
is that an opinion that he lost that battle, or is that fact?
I don't think we want to go facts because if we're gonna go facts, we gotta look at numbers. But if we're gonna go opinion, we could do. I mean, what I'm saying is, it would be different if Jay was trash. Let's say Jay was just trash at rapping. Well, then I could feel you. He will feel away. But if Jay in his own mind knows that, oh, okay, I got skills too, then at that point, I don't think you're too worried about other people's because again, in people's mind, Jay is a villain. That he is
So
a
you're telling
villain.
me Jay
So
didn't care if he won or
they
lost
don't
that
like
battle?
Jay-Z as a person. It's not about Jay's rhymes. They don't like Jay the human being because he's too successful to be liked.
So
We just
let's
saw that.
rewind. You're
We
saying a
just
lot of
saw that.
things.
We just saw
You're
and
saying a
Dame
lot of
Dash,
things.
Dame
Let's
Dash, you
rewind for
tried
people.
Dame Dash, you a sucker because you tried to put an allegation on Jay because you heard something and you were like, oh well,
Leroy,
I
you
hope
gotta slow down. You gotta slow down. You're going
we
all the way
know that
around the
people
world.
don't
But
like
no,
Jay.
Leroy, slow down. You're going all the way around the world. So you're telling me that Jay didn't care if he won or lost that battle when he was in the midst of that battle?
I think Jay is from an era where when you say a loss, I think like when you tell me I lost something, loss means something different to me than it does to y'all. Because y'all gonna say public opinion means you lost. I'm from a different era where we lose people's life gets lost. So I don't understand. I don't understand what you mean by public opinion. I come from a different world. You know what I mean?
You think
Where
that's how
life
he
is lost.
You think that's how
So
he stepped in that battle and was ready to engage? Because, he really put in a lot of effort in that battle. There was a lot of records that were put out. There was a lot of back and forth. I think his misstep in that battle was super ugly, coming out with that too fast. I think that
I mean,
going the angle that he went was a misstep. I think he cared if he won that battle or not. I think he did. But I will say this.
I
We
think it's like
lose.
Drake and Kendrick. No matter what Drake ever says, he will never win a battle because Drake is the
Well,
bad.
I
Drake,
disagree
you are
with that
not
though. I
about Drake's
disagree.
music. It's about people thinking Drake
Cut
is
you
a
off,
bad human
Leroy.
being.
Not to cut you
Kendrick
off,
is a
Leroy,
good
but
human being. That's what they're
Leroy,
judging.
wait a minute. Not to cut you
Yeah.
off, but I disagree with that because we all love Prodigy. Jay took Prodigy down in that, and nobody sat there and said, that wasn't the case because they didn't like Jay. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
They took
even
Prodigy down?
even in a loss to Nas, Jay was
I
able
think
to take
Prodigy took himself
great
down.
like Prodigy off the board.
I think Prodigy took himself down. I don't think Jay took Prodigy down.
No,
When
I
Prodigy
disagree with
when
that.
Prodigy stopped rhyming, when Infamy came out and the words didn't even rhyme, I think Prodigy took himself down
I think
because
he
he
was
stopped
done by
rhyming.
then. I think he was done before then because no, I mean the takeover. Mobb Deep was
Ether
never the
came
same
out.
after the takeover.
Ether came out in 2002, right? Now let's look at Jay's time in his life. It looks like Jay is having the time of his life. So if that's
2001.
so,
December
okay,
4th,
so
2001.
Ether came out in 2001. If you look
Mhm.
at Jay, it looks like he's having the time of his life. So if that's what losing is,
Until Ether
okay,
dropped.
and yeah, while Ether was popping, Jay was
Uh,
outside
I
popping.
disagree with that. This is what I
Jay
will
was
say.
selling out arenas when Ether dropped.
I think it was all right. Let me respond to that. And I know we got to wrap up in a second. The Raising Head with the super chat says, with these new allegations, we will at least get a verse from Jay. Even his enemies say that he raps about real life situations. Yes, he does. All right, this is what I would say. After Ether, what Jay went out there and did was the Blueprint 2. And, again, Jay's smart. I think the Blueprint 2, for the younger people out there, think Drake with Scorpion after, the story of Adonai. Jay knew that, you know what, if I drop something, it can't be a flop. So I got to make a double disc so that these discs count twice. And this record seems like it sold 2 times more than it actually did. But if you
So
look
he's
at
hurting. He's
no,
hurting.
it's not really a good effort, but he sacrificed actually making a good album because he wasn't sure if it was going to be received well or even be a commercial success. So what he did, had Beyonce on the lead single. It was kind of, when you look at the Blueprint 2, it was kind of like hit the emergency button, right? I'm going to go
Was it
out
a
here.
success or a
Oh,
flop?
let me finish. It's kind of a hit the emergency button because he went out there and made him and Beyonce's relationship public on the first single. He went out there and did a double disc just to ensure that he was going to do numbers because we all know double disc count twice. So if you went out there and sold 250,000, it's going to record as 500,000. If you sold 500,000, it's going to say you went platinum. But if we look at the actual material on the Blueprint
What was
2,
Nas doing?
he had 2 singles. He had Bonnie and Clyde, and he had Excuse Me Miss, and that was it on a double disc. I don't call that a success by Jay-Z standards. I think that's a down period. If you sit there and look at Volume 2, Volume 3, and the success of those singles, and then you look at the
Blueprint
Dynasty,
2 is
and
not a
you look at the
success.
Blueprint, and then you look at the Blueprint 2, Excuse Me Miss saved that album to a certain degree, but if you really look at it, that's a down period. And
So
luckily, he was able to recover with the Black Album and say that he was, going to retire when we all knew he wasn't.
Blueprint 2 is not a success. Is that what I'm hearing? Or
No,
flop?
I don't think the Blueprint 2 is a success, no. I don't.
What I remember is Excuse Me Miss went up. Bonnie and Clyde went up. Bounce Like That went up. Poppin' Tags went up.
Oh,
You're like
you're
all
not
around
being
the world.
honest.
We're talking. Were anybody in the street? You're meaning to tell me that on your block, people, everybody in the sound of my voice, when you were on your own block in your own neighborhood, that people weren't playing Blueprint 2? That what you're gonna tell me?
All right, I'm about to put it in the chat. Was the Blueprint 2 a success?
I'm talking about in your own neighborhood. A lot of y'all was in high school. When you went to high school, nobody was playing Jay.
And then, you know what he did to double down on the fact that this wasn't a success, Leroy? He went out there and put out the Blueprint 2.5, where he shaved off some of the excess fat on that album and threw a Swiss Beats record on there. He never had to do that. When did Jay ever, in that time period
Bro,
where he was popping
let me
at
tell
his height, when did he ever have to do a re-release because something didn't meet its expectations? He was
let me
out
tell
here
you,
juicing the books. He had to juice the books on the Blueprint too. That's just facts.
Jay was pulling in tens of millions. So if you're
So why
doing
did
that,
he have to go out there and put out the Blueprint 2.5 or whatever it was?
because Mike,
2.0.
because Mike, if you drop an album and you pull in 5 million, I'm gonna say go for 10.
But he didn't do that on Volume 2, did he? Because what you do in that situation is you put out more
Volume
singles.
2
Because
went crazy.
no. What you do in that situation is if that album is really rolling like that, you just put out another single. He didn't put out another single.
Google
He
Jay-Z,
trimmed
y'all.
fat on it and he threw a Swiss Beats record on there like it was a new single. That's what he did. Because
I'm
it
telling you
wasn't a
like this.
success.
I'm telling all artists, if you have one record as big as Jay's hits, then your family will be blessed forever. If you have
Oh,
one,
true.
just get one record, just one.
No,
Get
for sure.
one record that's equivalent to Jay. Get one, and I'm talking
Hell,
about his bottom. I'm talking about his most weakest songs. Get one of those, and your family will have generational wealth.
LP with the super chat says, Leroy, did Jay not drop every time Nas did for years after the beef? That really happened. He was watching what Nas was doing because of the competition. I forget about that, but yes, that did happen as well.
So dropping every year means he only did that because Nas was outside. He didn't
But
have
he
a
was actually
company.
dropping. No. You're
He don't.
not saying what
He
he
don't
said.
have
He
a.
was dropping the same day that Nas was dropping. He did that.
Okay, so how many times did that happen?
That happened, I want to say about 4 times.
So they have
You know?
like 20 albums, right? I'm just saying, hey, if y'all think Jay is like sitting around focused on Nas, like, oh my God, I gotta really watch Nas. I think Jay focuses on himself. Now, if y'all think he focuses on Nas, then hey, I don't know why you would be focused on somebody else that deeply. But
I mean,
if y'all
because he's an
think,
all-time great and he's
because
competitive.
running a company takes a lot of your attention. Like
Well,
it
this is
just
the
does.
thing. Obviously, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, though. If you want to be the greatest MC of all time, you do have to be inspired, and you do kind of look at somebody as the mark. Michael looked at Prince as the mark. Prince looked at Michael as the mark. And those guys understood that they were extreme talents, and they were competitive in that
But
way. And
Jay is going to
there's
radio.
nothing wrong with
Jay
Jay
is
looking
going
at
to
Nas
radio.
in that way.
But Jay is looking at radio commercial spots as his mark. Does Nas look at radio as his mark?
Well, this is the thing. I agree with you to a degree. I think the businessman of Jay looks at radio, but I think that the core hip hop MC and the guy that you're talking about, where nobody was checking for hooks, but just checking for lyricism, he looks at that part of it. I think to the core, Jay, and you could tell by the fact that Jay says Reasonable Doubt's his best album, and he never shifts on that. Reasonable Doubt ain't really got no crossover stuff on it. It has that core hip hop shit that he loves. All the other stuff is big.
Reasonable doubt don't need reasonable doubt is for gangsters. That ain't for rap. You that ain't for rap. That ain't for hip hop. That's for gangsters.
It is though. It is though, because the lyricism that he's displaying on Reasonable Doubt, we never heard from him again. We heard glimpses of it in Volume
Volume
1.
one.
Yeah, but bar for bar, like Who Wanna Bet Us That We Don't Touch
I'm
Leather,
just
Stack
saying like
Pedals,
this.
Treacherous, all this, etc. It's like he wasn't rapping like that again.
If I own a company in which I'm 50% of Def Jam and Def Jam is pouring in money and get it, I don't get to
You got
keep
a
this
job to
money.
do.
I have to pay this money back.
I
And
agree.
I
You
have
got a job to
and I
do.
have a whole label. I really don't have time to be focused on Nas when Russell is expecting his money back, and Bad Boy is on my back too, and Rough Riders is on my back too, and Busta Rhymes and Redman and Method Man are on my tour too. State Property's on my back. Dipset is on my back. Bleak is on my back. I don't really have time to worry about Nas.
Well,
I'm sorry because
I
I
think
have to
that
make
Jay,
$100 or else my label collapses. If I don't bring in 100 million, and I'm talking fast, I'm talking fast. If I don't bring in $100 million bag, my label crumbles. So I can't focus on Nas.
G
I'm
Roll
sorry.
Lover Super Chat says hip hop is. He says hip hop is competition. Nobody competing to lose. Leroy, get out of here with that soft ish.
Nas
This
don't
ain't
gotta pay back
all.
Russell. Nas don't have to pay back. Russell putting in tens. He's pouring in tens of millions. And Puffy is also on the set. He's branding, is cross branding with Rockefeller. If I don't pay these guys back, I'm done.
I
So
don't
Nas
think it's
don't have to.
honest to say.
Nas don't have to worry about that because Nas only has to pay himself. Columbia is not expecting Nas to carry Columbia. They're not. They're not. They don't look at Nas like carry this label. Russell is looking at Jay like, bro, I need you to carry this label along with Def Squad, along with DMX,
F
along
Squad.
with Onyx. Yeah. No,
No,
but
Jay never
the
had to
reason,
carry DMX. Cut it out. Or
bro,
Def
you
Squad.
only go 50-50 with somebody who you kind of respect that is of your cloth. That's why you go 50-50. For Russell to look at Jay as his equal is insanity because Russell is a whole other ball game. He went 50-50 with Jay. So how is
You're
he
not,
looking at Jay?
listen, I could go on and that and go through that rabbit hole for hours. You're not telling that story accurately. That's a
Snoop
whole
Dogg.
nother that's a
Snoop
whole
Dogg
nother
delivered.
show. Black
Snoop is a cultural icon, and he delivered a culturally iconic album.
Yeah, album of the year. Black and Wealth and Power with the super chat says Blueprint 2 was a success, even if the purists don't like it. Losing the battle was inconsequential to his career. What did he lose other than the battle? All right.
Nothing.
Well, let's get out of here.
Conway got verse of the year with Give and
Okay.
Give. Conway verse of the year. J. Cole, number 4 album of the year. Might delete later.
Okay.
But when we go to Conway, right? The reason why he got verse of the year is because how many times he uses words with the OR in the middle, right? Good morning, gorgeous. They think I'm more important, or all the ors. All he uses, how many ors he used? That's verse of the year. So what I'm saying to you is my ears are very technical. So when I'm telling you Snoop and Dre did their thing, I'm not just telling you because I'm a fan of Snoop. I'm saying because I listen to the music and I could tell you they deliver. I'm not just making it up.
Well, on Wednesday's show, Savron's going to be joining you guys, and he put together a top 10 albums list of this year. And I would imagine you're probably going to have a similar list or verse of the year. And Wednesday's show is a call-in format. So if y'all want to scream on Leroy or Savron too, feel free to call in. I might call in myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mike could talk crazy to me. The rest of y'all can't talk crazy. Y'all know I be tripping. So be careful. But I'm trying. The Lord is working with me to try to bring it down. I'm trying, but be careful.
Well, you did well today. You did well today. All right, hit like and subscribe, everybody. I appreciate you, Leroy, and great show,
Yes,
brother. Yes,
appreciate you. According to hip hop, love, Dre, fire.